Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first qualifier here for May for the Unite Battle Hub Elite Tour, which I said I was going to call Elite Tour and just completely pronounced it wrong. But we're back, even though UCS is now kind of heading towards the end. There's still plenty of competition this month, and we're going to be seeing who our first team qualifying today is. Of course, I am Wonder Chef, joined by Curly Q and Steel Agent Kyle. It's nice to see you both. I haven't casted with either of you for quite a while, but we'll go in order. So, Curly, how you been?
I've been so good. I'm really looking forward to seeing some teams compete today, especially because we just had a pretty interesting patch come through super recently. So yeah, I'm pumped, I'm excited, and I can't wait to see the competition today.
Nice. And Kyle, how you doing? You're here. I think this is your first Unite Battle Hub tournament. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's my first time here at UBH. Super excited to be here. Like Curly said, there's a very interesting patch. I'm excited to see how the pro players are going to format some of these comps and all that good stuff. And getting ready for myself, getting ready to compete at NAIC for the final stretch tournament. So maybe get some pointers and some tips here. So excited to cast some matches.
All right, well, definitely the secret is just pick Cramorant, but no, definitely not. We'll see, though. There has been some buffs. Speaking of, while we're getting this first match underway, we'll start with Curly. Is there anything specifically in this patch, since it was pretty big, that you're looking forward to seeing today?
I think the two biggest changes to our Pokemon Unite roster that really caught my eye were the buffs to Tyranitar. I got to play a little bit of Unite last night, and even as a Slowbro, I was having a hard time with those Tyranitars in that late game. Didn't feel much like a tank, so yeah, definitely seems like Tyranitar is in a much better spot, though I'm not sure if it's going to be competitively viable, so interested to see that. But also, you know, I'm a defender main, so was very intrigued by the Blastoise nerfs. As much as I love Blastoise, it definitely needed to be nerfed. It just does way too much damage. So seeing, you know, Hydro Pump getting that damage nerf and the stun being decreased a little bit, as well as spin being nerfed as well. Very interested to see if these teams are still going to be utilizing Blastoise. I don't really expect it, because I do feel like a lot of people relied on that damage from Blastoise being that tanky brawler in that front line. So yeah, those are the two Pokemon that really stood out to me.
Already, those are some really big ones. There's a few other ones, though. Kyle, quick, you have 5 seconds. What do you want to see from the new patch?
I mean, I want to see how these pro players handle Delphox with some of the nerfs. Like, if it's still viable. Mostly curious for my own selfish reasons, but yeah, I think that's the one that I'm the most sad about personally.
All right, well, we are already getting into the bans here. Of course, our first game is going to be Winrack Lose Game versus Nick's Edit. Already double defender ban on the side of Winrack Lose Game, which does make a lot of sense, especially we've got a few less defenders kind of in the pool with the Blastoise nerf, so you can really control the pacing of the game. But Gyarados and Blissey, that's interesting.
Yeah, that double defender ban is pretty spicy, but of course we're going to see this Trevenant getting locked in here. I think, you know, we're still going to see a lot of that Trevenant and Crustle being picked up. They're very disruptive in that front line. But I do notice that we're also hovering over this Greedent tier, which, oh man, I was kind of hoping we could have seen that locked in.
Oh yeah, did you both get a chance to see the Greedent games from Nouns over the weekend that were so ridiculous?
Oh yeah, Greedent. Greedent's still one of those characters. I feel like just the defender class in general is in just such a strong spot. You have so many of them that can do different things or be taken into different roles. But yeah, that Greedent game was, I mean, in the right hands, Greedent's still very strong.
Yeah, and I think Gatlu might have been that. But it looks like we're not going to be seeing that. Crustle, really solid choice. Interesting to go for the Comfey so early. I feel like that's really a sign that you want to go some sort of speedster a little bit later on, like maybe the Zoroark. Nothing's really been banned out too much yet. Leafeon's still on the table as well. And Curly, how do you feel about now that we've seen this damage line from Nick's Edit?
Oh, this is looking pretty spicy. I mean, that Mew and the Mimikyu together, I mean, that's going to be pretty chaotic. Mew is going to do a ton of damage in that back line. And then we also got Eldegoss, though despite getting those damage nerfs that it had, I feel like it's still is a very useful support, able to continue doing that poking from a good range there. And here we go, though. We are seeing that Tyranitar locked in, and I am so excited for this.
Oh yeah, with made the comfy on it. That's actually not something that I've seen, which is that's a really interesting way to go with it. It could also potentially go on something like the Scyther if it's going to be a Scyther, which I have to expect it might be. And then a Cinderace on the last pick. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about, so I'm going to throw it over to you two, because you two, of course, will be casting game number 1. I'm going to take a back seat and enjoy this already interesting draft.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you, Chef. Yeah, I think, Curly, I think this is one of the things I think we were talking about backstage is T-Tar with the Comfey. I would not be surprised if we see this Comfey go Sweet Kiss to draw in the enemy, stun them, and allow T-Tar to really just thrive and take over that late game.
Yeah, not only is that T-Tar going to benefit a ton off of that Comfey, but I think Comfey is just going to be really beneficial with this team comp. I mean, I've dealt with a Scizor Comfey myself in my Unite games, and, you know, it looks like this Comfey has some options to choose from to help keep those two all-arounders alive and capable of, you know, continuing to brawl. What I do find really interesting about these two comps is they are both very different comps. Nyx Edit has that that range. They have a ton of range between the Cinderace and the Mew player on their team, but Winrack Lose Game has a lot of frontline potential, a lot of dive with that Scizor, and also having that Tyranitar in the front line as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Winrack Lose Game is going to be capable of getting their front line to be able to make a move on that back line. They might kind of struggle with that a little bit, but they definitely got the damage.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the other things we want to kind of keep an eye out for, and really just anytime you have a T-Tar, before the patch, obviously, like the key was, are you able to even get to the late game with T-Tar? We all know how much of a monster that thing can be, and it gets to level 13, level 14. But here we go. Game number 1, Winrack Lose Game versus Nyx Edit. Looks like Scyther's going to that central area.
Yeah, and I kind of just had a realization. I mean, you know, we saw Scizor on that graph screen, but it could very much be a Scyther. And actually, I think maybe going Scyther might be pretty beneficial for them to have that speedster. I'm actually very surprised that neither of these teams ended up picking up, in my opinion, 2 of the best speedsters, Meowscarada and Leafeon in this game. I kind of expected to see those 2 Pokemon being picked up frequently, but we'll have to see how these pro players feel about that as we kick off our first game between Winrack Lose Game versus Nyx Edit. So as far as team comp here goes, I'm really loving Nyx Edit going into this first game here. I think they've got that frontline coverage. They've also got the backline coverage, and I think Winrack Lose Game is really going to have to pull some strings in order to get towards that backline there.
Yeah, and they got 4 members all the way up at the top, getting a KO on that Mimikyu pretty early, so pretty good engage there from Winrack Lose Game. Crustal's going to try to keep this Phantump from, you know, scaling, getting any of their stacks on, and almost getting the KO, but Phantump able to get right back to the base.
Yeah, Crustle looking pretty healthy in this early game here. Looks like they're going to be able to scare most of those Swablu's there in that central area. I want to say maybe, I think it might have been the Sylveon that swooped that Altaria there. But right now it's just a battle for who can get the most wild Pokemon here on this map. Trying to get those levels as quickly as they possibly can so they can reach those first power spikes for their teams. But here we are in the top path here. Mimikyu is looking to return a KO after they themselves got knocked out a little bit there. But looks like this top lane is definitely going more towards the side of Winrack Lose Game as they get another KO and another one. And now they're going to get in those dunks and win that top lane.
Yeah, that Scyther's looking pretty good right now. Looks like Cinderace just going to have to try to peel back to their base, grab the Citrus Berry. Very close to going down there. But look at Scyther there, getting nice and fed, grabbing all of that central area. And look at that Curly, already level 9. They have their Unite move.
Oh yes, that's going to be very beneficial for Winrack Lose Game going into this first objective here. And also Sylveon, I mean, Sylveon, we would like to see that Unite move coming online for that first objective, but it looks like it's not going to be able to get it in time. And of course, we really want to see this Pupitar get into Tyranitar as well. As we all know, Tyranitar has so much potential, especially with those new buffs, and we really want to see that Pokemon pop off here. But here we go. We are gearing up for our first set of objectives. It looks like Scyther was able to secure that Regirock there, and they are still holding on to that Unite move. So they're going to start rotating up top, and we should more than likely see that Unite move being utilized to their advantage for that top Regieleki.
Yeah, Scyther went up to the top. We still have a couple members of both teams kind of watching this bottom path. Sylveon kind of peeking through the central area. But yeah, here we go. 3 members up here at the top part. Green Illusion dive from Scyther gets the KO onto the Mimikyu, but they are not done. They're going to try to dive into the Crustle, get the KO on Sylveon, and now WinRAC lose game. They're going to close out this tier 1 goal zone, Curly.
Yeah, this top lane is looking so good as they have just been able to get those KOs in that early game, get the levels that they needed to when they needed to. Now we're seeing this very healthy Tyranitar. They're going to be able to push that team away, given that they were able to KO the Cinderace, secure the Aleki, and now it looks like they're looking for some more chaos. They're looking to possibly make a move on this Regieleki here, trying to pressure this tier 2 and see if they can get this Aleki into the base to further push their score lead.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're looking to do. But T-Tar, is they going to go down? They try to use that Tyrannical Rampage Unite move, not quite able to get it. But Mimikyu, an expert Shadow Sneak, getting a KO, looking to grab this Sylveon with that Comfade Collar. Unable to do so yet, but they are still pushing in. They ended up Shadow Sneaking some of the farm, and I don't think they're going to get the KO. Instead, they're just going to try to back on away, knowing that they do have that Comfade healing from on the side of WinRAC lose game.
Yeah, good thing for Mimikyu to back off there. They were able to get their HP up there with that wild farm there, so that's going to be pretty good for Mimikyu there. They're going to back off, try to, get those levels that they need. But speaking of levels, we are pretty even across the board here. I mean, there's really no level advantage going into this next set of objectives here, that we do have the level 12 Scyther being the highest level in this game so far. Now, Nyx Edit, they have really great positioning over this objective, but of course they're going to get pushed out as that Trevenant tries to go for the flank. They do manage to get the KO on the Scyther there. Eldegoss also down the side of Nyx Edit too. Crustle does have quite a bit of shield, but their HP is getting fairly low, and with T-Tar just kind of lingering around there, it's a little scary if you're Nyx Edit.
Oh, really scary indeed. Big Tyrannical Rampage doing a bit of damage, but this Cinderace is playing really well, staying on the outside of it, allowing Crustle to take and soak up a lot of that damage. And now Regirock has reset. We're going to have a little bit of a refight here, Curly.
Yes, we are. So this Regirock is still on the map here, and it is anybody's objective at this point. Cinderace does get taken out, though. Unfortunately, Regirock getting lower and lower, and honestly, the secure is going to go to anybody at this point, and it's the Mew that ends up getting that secure on that objective. Absolutely huge for Team Nyx Edit, considering that they did lose their Cinderace in that engagement. We have the Unite move from the Comfey popping off to try to keep their team alive here in this engagement. And Nyx Edit is looking for the push as they continue to get those KOs. Sylveon going down, and Nyx Edit is just out for some revenge.
Absolutely. Are they going to be able to get some of these points in? No, says T-Tar, able to throw down some of that sand stream, stopping a lot of that from going in, but Mimikyu closes that KO out, and now Mimikyu has scaled a little bit higher. They are the level 13 along with that Scyther, so definitely something to keep your eye out here in this late game. We're 1 minute until the final stretch. Slight advantage here on the score line for WinRAC lose game, less than a score. Nyx Edit, though, overall levels looking pretty strong.
Yeah, pretty strong indeed, especially when you're looking at a level 14 Mimikyu, level 13 Cinderace. It's going to make things at the Ray fight get very, very interesting, but WinRAC lose game is still has the potential to get some levels themselves, as Tyranitar is looking for their level 13 as well. But we do have a massive fight down here in this bottom path. Nyx Edit is really trying to take over this bottom tier 1, try to make that score just a little bit more even before going into this Ray fight.
Absolutely, yeah. Mimikyu is going to be getting a nice 49-point cap. Not going to be double, but they are going to close out that goal zone, bring them ever so close to the score deficit. So less than 20 points. So both teams are going to know that they are that is a close battle. So any score here would really put one team ahead. Both teams trying to draw the scrimmage lines and figure out where they want to start this fight.
Yeah, we're kind of doing that little dance here as we wait for that initial engagement to really kick off this Ray fight. Scyther might be either looking for a flank or looking for a backup here as they're kind of hovering around in that top path. But meanwhile, Nyx Edit's really taking over the positioning here in this Ray fight. So this is looking very advantageous for them going into this fight here. And here we go. We're kind of getting a little bit of action there. But WinRAC lose game, they back up to their tier 1. I think that was the best call for them in that situation. However, they're still giving up positioning to Nyx Edit on this objective. It looks like we're going for the flip, and the objective is going to go to the hands of that Sylveon player, getting that secure and getting those shields for their team. And WinRAC lose game is chipping away at Nyx Edit, knocking them down like dominoes, and it's almost a near team wipe.
Yeah, they're going to win rack, lose, and win the game is what they're looking to do. That's going to put another 100 in, 494, 129 with 45 seconds remaining in this game 1. Looking pretty strong there. Yeah, going for the flip was definitely interesting. It looked like Cinderace was the one that ended up starting that rip, and then WinRAC, they just kind of peeled right on over to the Rayquaza. And yeah, like you said, Sylveon getting that confirmation on it on the Ray.
Yeah, that rip was definitely a choice. I mean, when you look at it, it really looked like Nyx Edit had the advantage there. They were definitely very aggressive with their positioning in that Ray fight, pushing back WinRAC lose game. And oh, we got some good manners going on in this game. Just kind of looking at each other like, oh yeah, game 2, it's on.
I feel like I interrupted an important business meeting down there.
Love those little moments in games like this, especially in a tourney scenario. Would have liked to see a little bit more dancing going on there. I don't know. It looks like some intimidation techniques, if you will. But here we go. 518 to 129. WinRAC win game has won game 1.
Game 1 goes over there. Best of 3 single elim. Big Mac, the big T-Tart, 4 KOs, 7 assists. But Ikea is winning the MVP, 170 points, 4 KOs, 5 assists. Overall, though, I mean, you got to give it to that Sylveon. That was a, almost a do or die situation, and that Sylveon getting that confirmation on Ray. It's absolutely massive. But big damage. Who do you think was kind of the catalyst of that game for WinRAC lose game?
Oh man, I mean, honestly, looking at both of these damage numbers here, I mean, both teams seem pretty even. I mean, WinRAC lose game was winning that top path, while Nyx Edit was winning that bottom path. And I feel like a lot of the members from WinRAC lose game, like they all had their moments. L Raptor Arms was doing really good with, flanking Nyx Edit at those objectives. Tyranitar really popped off in that late game. They made such a great call backing up to that tier 1 and then making that move into the Ray pit as the objective was being ripped. And then Sylveon getting the secure on the Ray. Honestly, I feel like all of the team members on the side of WinRAC lose game had a moment during that game where they really shined it through, especially when we were looking at that top path there. I mean, they absolutely dominated top lane here.
Yeah, and you're seeing this kind of new meta forming where all 4 members of each team are starting to kind of come up for those first engages. So we're kind of starting to see that happen on a lot in the NA. I think that's kind of a neat little meta that's kind of starting to form. But yeah, that Scyther getting a lot of elims early game. It kind of fell off towards that late game, but I mean, when you have a T-Tar, you're kind of okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, the T-Tar definitely was able to dish out the damage once it, became that T-Tar and make up for when that Scyther did kind of fall off there. But there's that flank from that Trevenant that I just absolutely love the way that they pushed them together with that Horn Leech after that flank, which is really incredible from a defender perspective. And here we go. There's that Ray fight there. Honestly, I couldn't tell you who was going to get that secure on that. It was a flip in my book. And just a shout out to that Sylveon for being able to get the secure on that Ray when, it was being ripped by Nick's edit there. Like I said, I really feel like Nick's edit, they had such an aggressive positioning over that Ray fight. They were able to push back the Tyranitar and one of their other teammates down to that tier 1 path, forcing them to back off a little bit. But as Nick's edit started to back up towards that Ray to help their teammate continue ripping it, win rack lose game was not too far behind, and they got Sylveon there keeping an eye on things, ready for that secure, and it was just incredible timing.
Yeah, probably a lot of a lot of loud noises in the group chat probably during that. Get to Ray, get to Ray, get to Ray. Because like you said, T-Tar was just kind of pushed out. Heroic effort by that Sylveon gets them the dub there. If you're Nick's edit, what do you change with some of that team comp? Honestly, I thought it was a pretty good comp. It obviously just came down to a flip, but do you maybe form, some way to try to slow down that T-Tar, or maybe start, figure out how to slow down the early game on that site there? Or what do you think?
I kind of thought maybe like a Leafeon to kind of do some big damage in that front line against a T-Tar. But at the same time, with T-Tar's buffs, like it's so strong now, you kind of risk getting bopped out of the fight there with that T-Tar. So I think it definitely would be a risk trying to run a Speedster into a comp like that. But I don't really think it was the comp that was the issue. I think it's mainly the decisions. I can see why they thought they could have had the rip. Again, their positioning at Ray, aggressive, they push them out. But when you still have a someone on the other team lingering around waiting for that secure, it's kind of a risky call. So I think maybe just having better decision making around that Ray, and don't rip it until you're absolutely sure that you're going to be able to get the secure on it. So I think when it comes down to it, it's not necessarily a draft issue or a comp issue. I think it really just comes down to your communication with your teammates and your decision making at Ray.
Yeah, I mean, win Ray, lose game, or win rack, lose game. I mean, they definitely won it, so they know the importance of Rayquaza, or at least you would think. But here we go. We're going to be getting into game number 2. We have the teams that have flipped some of the sides. So win rack, lose game is going to be on your orange side. Nick's edit on your purple side. We already have a couple bans. Curly, Blissey, and Trevenant won't be getting played this match.
No, it will not. And honestly, I was actually gonna say I don't blame the Trevenant ban, except it was win rack lose game that was playing the Trevenant. Poor Umbreon is just not really gonna get to shine much in this tournament, as I feel like it's probably one of the best defenders currently. Absolutely love playing Umbreon. Wish does so much healing now too, so I don't blame them for trying to ban that out. But looks like we might experiment a little bit with these Blastoise buffs and see, or sorry, not buffs, nerfs, and see whether or not those nerfs have made it I wouldn't say unplayable, but not as brawly as it used to be. It did receive several damage nerfs. It's not going to do as much crowd control with Hydro Pump. So I'm very interested to see what this Blastoise player, Galadite, is going to pull out going into this game too with Blastoise, despite the nerfs.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if teams are still putting like first pick priority on something like Blastoise, to me, like, it's still telling that it probably wasn't nerfed enough. I mean, like I said, the defenders are just so good right now. Like, I mean, you see Umbreon and Trev both banned. I think Trevenant's definitely one of those strong defenders. I mean, you could throw that in the top lane. You could throw it as that true defender. Just has so much utility in it. So I don't blame people, but a Hoopa pick. So this is going to be the first game we're seeing Hoopa today. Win rack lose game, going to have a lot of map mobility if they do choose to go to the the hyperspace hole build, but something that's still on the table. I mean, recently we did see some trick buffs.
Ooh, we're locking in that Dragonite too. If you asked me to name Pokemon that I expected to see, Dragonite would be something that I would not list really at all. Like I think I don't think there's anything wrong with Dragonite. It's just we don't really see it too often, though we do have some players come around that really understand the Pokemon and play it really well, who do enjoy bringing it into these competitive games. So very excited to see Jakuri on this Dragonite here. We've got a double all-rounder situation here. We've got Phalanx on the table too. Phalanx has been banned from the competitive tournaments up until recently. It's finally out of its 2-week prison. So very excited to see Get Yoshi on this Phalanx to see the competitive viability of this mon.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm surprised we haven't seen, but maybe that's because we saw the first pick Mimikyu, but I'm surprised we didn't see an E-Speed Lucario into this Phalanx. Definitely one of the counters that I personally have seen a lot on ladder. I've also seen, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that Venusaur go Petal Drain Giga, just with the way that those interact with the, I like to call them the little guys of Phalanx. But one of the other things that we saw Nick's edit grab is that Eldegoss. So Eldegoss is also a pretty good counter. So I think that they wanted to grab that before the Hoopa went off the table to kind of help ease any other additional counters to let that Phalanx, really scale and thrive.
Yeah, and even though Eldegoss did get those, those damage nerfs, I feel like it's still really good with the range that it has, the poking that it can do. It's still a very viable support, but I'm really excited to see Hoopa. In my opinion, I think Hoopa is one of the best supports, and I think it really can be a challenge going up against a team that has a Hoopa player on it, because you really do have to play a little bit ahead, knowing that Hoopa can move its team all around the map fairly easily. So your priority is going to be trying to get rid of those tier 1 pads as quickly as you possibly can. We'll just have to see if Nick's edit is up to the challenge.
Absolutely, yeah. Clear the tier 1 pads, and then, if you're Hoopa, you're going to try to hold them as best as you can for as long as you can to allow your team that mobility. But yeah, looks like Phalanx Eldegoss going to the top path. Interesting to see Eldegoss not being given that red buff that's so strong on it early game.
Yeah, we see that a lot with supports going in and grabbing that red buff and then going up into their lanes, and especially with an Eldegoss too, because it has that range, and the effects from that red buff are very advantageous for a Pokemon such as Eldegoss. So we usually see that very often, especially in UCS, but we're definitely not seeing that here. And unfortunately, we do see Eldegoss getting knocked out there in this early game, and as well as the Phalanx. So super unfortunate for Nick's edit. Winrack lose game. Not just this game, but the previous game as well. They've just done such a great job in that top lane there, and so we're seeing that once again here. And they want to keep applying some pressure here as they do try to go in for that invade there on the central area of Nick's edit. They were not able to get away with much there, but it's a bit of a distraction and kind of causes a little bit of a frenzy.
Yeah, it looks like Crustle is staying down here along with Espeon. Mid Birds, it looks like it probably went majority on the side of win rack lose game. But I do see Mimikyu with that red buff, so they might have stolen that away. I couldn't quite see if that was their own red buff or if it was the side of Nick's edit. Either way, 54-0 here early game. Looking like win rack lose game is scaling pretty well. You got a couple level 7s already too.
Yeah, they're looking very healthy, and unfortunate for Nick's edit. They've only got that level 4 Eldegoss, but being a support player, it's not too bad if you're a little bit behind here in this early game. We know that they'll be able to catch up a little bit later, especially if they end up losing a tier 1. That's going to open up their side of the map to so much experience. Really interesting strat here coming from Nick's edit. They're holding on to those two bunnies there in the bot path there, waiting to take that experience. So love to see that, love to see these strats, but we do see a lot of KOs coming down the side of Nick's edit. Not only did we see Eldegoss going down earlier, Wartortle also was knocked out, Espeon most recently getting knocked out as well. And there it is. We've got Crustle getting that secure on that Regice in the bot path here. So not only is WinRack Lose Game having a great top path situation here, but they're also popping off in this bot path as well. They do take down that tier 1. And we're going to bring it up to this Regieleki and continue on.
Yeah, here we go. Jakuri, though, is looking to grip and rip this Regieleki. Big secures on the Hyper Beam. Here it comes, but no, it goes to the Venusaur. I think it was that Verdant Anger Unite, and they're going to continue pushing into this tier 1 goal. Is Regieleki going to walk in? It looks like it. And this is going to set up for a very nice overcap. Looks like WinRack Lose Game is going to kind of stall this out, maybe keep Nick's Edit from being able to grab all that secondary farm that'll spawn in that top path. That's exactly what's going on. But a nice 34-point overcap for this Venusaur.
Yeah, this is looking pretty rough for Nick's Edit. It looks like we were battling it out for that buff there. I cannot tell you who got the buff. I want to say it was Nick's Edit was able to get that secure on it, but hard to tell because there's just so much action happening here in this mid-game, WinRack Lose Game, continuing to apply that pressure on that tier 2, getting in some dunks there. Meanwhile, Crustle going in for the back cab on the bottom tier 2 as well. I missed it if they were running any stacking items, so they could be trying to go in for some stacks there. But here we go. We've got Dragonite securing that blue buff for themselves. And we've got another objective spawning on the map. And, you know, we really want to see some life coming out of Nick's Edit in this game too. They are, you know, sitting at a 0-point score game here versus WinRack Lose Game's 287. Levels are starting to look a little bit better for Nick's Edit, but we really need to see them trying to get some experience in getting those levels up there.
Yeah, here we go. Hoopa brings the team in with Rings Unbound. Psychic Solaire out for this Espeon, but here we go. Rubble Rouser now out for Crustle. Crustle gets the KO onto that Blastoise, and nice play by that Hoopa bringing the entire team up because it looked like Nick's Edit was making a siege onto that tier 1 goal. The siege was unsuccessful though, Curly. 287 to 0 still at the 420 mark, and there's now a bottom Reggie spawning along with his next Regieleki.
Oh, you're kind of making me hungry there, Kyle, because now curry sounds really good for dinner tonight. But speaking of dinner, we've got Mimikyu in the bot path cooking, getting the secure on that Registeel, which is going to be pretty massive for them going into this Regieleki. They've got that damage boost on their side. Looks like they are trying to protect this bottom tier 1. Looks like Nick's Edit, they kind of recognize that they can't take a team fight with the way that things sit. So it looks like they're going to try to go for that bottom tier 1 push here. And really smart of Mimikyu and Crustle to kind of linger down there in the bottom path, kind of thinking ahead of Team Nick's Edit there and trying to predict their moves and accurately predicting their moves at that.
Ooh, yeah, big KO there. Espeon grabs the Mimikyu. That's a big KO. So now you see Nick's Edit pushing towards a tier 1. We got the Hydro Typhoon out from Blastoise. Big Fairy Singularity helps grab a KO, make it 2 onto the side of Nick's Edit. 2 down, and now WinRack Lose Game going to continue pushing in. This Venusaur is going to grab some of the birds. They're going to try to get the KO out of this Phalanx. The rest of the team is now here. Big Hyper Beam from Dragonite, but that's not going to be enough damage. Hoopa sends them back for a reset.
We've got that level 13 Venusaur on the map. This is looking pretty huge for WinRack Lose Game, and we are seeing a bit of a level differential here going into this final stretch. Looks like Mimikyu is soloing the top Regieleki, so they're going to end up securing that another objective going to that Mimikyu player right there. So given the positioning here, it looks like WinRack Lose Game might try to pressure this just a little bit. But yeah, with this being so close to Ray, it's best if they just back off here. Nick's Edit is going to delete the Regieleki. Meanwhile, WinRack Lose Game is going to get into positioning for this array fight.
It's hard to say the name. You're totally right. But yeah, we have the final stretch coming out. All points will be doubled here in the next few seconds. Looks like Nick's Edit is setting up in a bush, going to give some healing over to this Phalanx. Phalanx actually goes for a reset. Venusaur is going to be setting up in this top path, and it looks like WinRack Lose Game is setting up a very aggressive positioning here for this Ray.
Yes, and that's exactly what we want to see from one of these teams going into this array fight, is just taking over that position and trying to shut the other team out from being able to, make a move on that objective. But it looks like we do have Blastoise getting taken out there. And this fight is just happening on win rack lose games terms. They're really pushing out Nick's edit here, not allowing them to go into this Ray pit.
Yeah, I mean, they're completely stuck in their own jungle. You see Crustle guarding that one choke, Gardevoir guarding the other choke, this Mimikyu going in from a flank. I mean, you just have no way into this Ray, and they need something to happen. Mimikyu grabbing a nice 80 cap here in this bottom path, gonna make this feat even more difficult. We have the Play With Me out, big Hyper Beam from Dragon Knight. Now Eldegoss gets that confirmation KO onto the Mimikyu. Still, they're running out of time is Nick's edit. They gonna need to make something happen here, Curly.
Yeah, they had no vision on that Ray there, and honestly, I feel like there was enough time where if WinRack Lose Game wanted to, they could have ripped that objective and taken it off of the map, given that Nick's edit was just nowhere in sight. They did not have vision on that objective whatsoever, so a bit risky for Team Nick's edit there. But here we go. We could see a secure potential coming from Nick's edit. This is exactly what they need in order to send us into a Game 3 scenario, and it is the Phalanx that's going to get the secure on it. But unfortunately, we do have Blastoise and Espeon going down. Not much time left on the clock, and honestly, with the score lead that WinRack Lose Game had on their side, I don't know if the numbers are going to work out for them.
Win rack lose game is going to take game number 2 in Nick's edit. They're the one that won the Rayquaza, and they're the one, unfortunately, that has lost the game, kind of taken the namesake of Win Rack Lose Game. But yeah, we're going to see what the final score is. 401-120. They're able to get a couple of scores there at the very end, but not enough time on the clock, not enough money in their pockets to make the comeback a successful one. So Win Rack Lose Game going to be going on to round number 2.
Yeah, like you said, not enough time. And, there's 2 people that ended up being knocked out after the Ray fight on the side of Nick's edit. So even if they did have 3 teammates being able to go in and get those dunks, the math just wouldn't math. Win rack lose game would still be ahead as far as scores go. So it was definitely a challenge for Nick's edit to try to win with such little time left after they were able to get that secure. But a great effort on their part, but win rack lose game just really locked it down this set.
Yeah, I mean, you saw right from the get-go, Mimikyu jumping up with a couple of KOs right at the beginning. So really strong early game, allowed them to really just scale. They allowed to really invade at will. You saw they're getting a couple of KOs into the enemy jungle, stealing some of their buffs. And again, Hoopa is very impactful here. I mean, able to, again, like you said, in the drafting phase, they closed out those tier 1 goals very quickly. They kept their own up, allowing them just almost unlimited mobility between lanes.
Yeah, and like I said, during the draft phase, if you're going to go up against a team with Hoopa, you have to be quick. You have to play such a faster paced game. But win rack lose game, not only did they have the Hoopa on their team, but they were also playing an extremely fast-paced game themselves, and just an incredible Ray fight here that we witnessed from both of those teams there. But just absolutely incredible for win rack lose game to be able to get those knockouts, those 2 knockouts. Because like I said, even if they had 3 teammates getting in those dunks, they still wouldn't have had enough points to win that game compared to win rack lose game. I believe it was 401 or 402 points. So they went into that Ray fight having that score lead, getting in those back caps to further push their score lead there. And so win rack lose game was just multiple steps ahead of Nick's edit.
Yeah, they looked really good. I mean, front to back, left to right, up and down. It didn't seem like they lost any really control of that game. I mean, other than those, like you said, a couple seconds there when they lost the Ray. But I mean, at that point, I mean, they completely controlled that Ray fight. They completely controlled the map. I mean, whatever they wanted to do that game, it definitely seemed like they were able to do it. And that Hoopa pick, that came in clutch.
Oh, absolutely. Phenomenal place from both teams. But we're going to go ahead and get the next set ready for everybody that is tuning in. So don't go anywhere unless you need to take a stretch, grab some water. We'll be right back with more Pokemon Unite action. Yay! Woohoo!
Welcome back in Pokemon Unite trainers. We are back with the Unite Battle Hub May qualifiers for the Elite Tour of North America. We just saw some really great games between Nick's Edit and Win Rack Lose Game. We are going to be going over to Justice for Mew and Fallen Crows here in just a second. But we have Wonder Chef back in, along with myself and Curly Q. What's going on, Chef?
That was a fun last game. We got to see a whole lot of new stuff. I mean, we were talking so much about the patch, we didn't even talk about the fact that Phalanx, well, at least early in the show, that Phalanx is like finally unbanned, and then we got to see some Comfey on some T-Tar. Just a lot of really cool, fun stuff. Cinderace even showing up a little bit, and that's what I want to see, especially now that we're a little bit later in the UCS season. People can try new things out, especially if they've been buffed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Curly, you got to watch all the action with me in the last match. What were you most excited to see those last two games?
I got to see exactly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see how Blastoise was doing after the nerfs. I wanted to see how Tyranitar was doing after the buffs, and so it was really incredible to see this patch update at work here. And so, it was one game of each, so we need to see a little bit more from those two Pokemon before we decide that, it's not or it is viable for competitive. But I think I can speak for Chef here when I'd say we need to bring out the Cram now and see how those buffs are doing for that blue bird.
Yeah, I really want to see Cram. I would love to see the Cram Lapras cheese on stream. It's just such a fun little tech with the Unite move. Another thing that maybe not has, seen a buff or, anytime recently, I think it should probably get maybe something. But Mamoswine, I've seen a lot of Mamo going around the competitive scene. I know we saw some at AOS Cup. We've seen a little bit in NAIC, in, the regional qualifiers. What do you guys think about Mamo right now in this meta where kind of defenders are running supreme?
I actually really like Mamo. We've seen Mamo used in a few different ways over a few different regions. So Japan in particular really likes Mamoswine, and they have for a while. We've seen it come out every once in a while, like in NA. I know LG for a while was running it as their top path brawler and running stacking Mamoswine with Ice Fang, which is my favorite thing to do in solo queue. And then it can be used as a tank, especially now that Blastoise is nerfed. I feel like maybe we'll see it a little bit more.
Yeah, Ice Fang is just so fun. You're just picking people up, putting them down. You could throw that enemy into danger. But here we go. We got a couple bans. I mean, T-Tar again. Teams are starting to respect the T-Tar. I know we saw it earlier in game number 1. What are you thinking about this T-Tar ban, Curly?
I think it's very interesting. I mean, Kyle, I remember you mentioning that, you had scrims last night, and there were quite a few Tyranitar bans from your end. So, it definitely seems like these teams understand the potential of T-Tar now after those buffs. And so I definitely respect the T-Tar ban. I mean, I would love to see more of it because we only got a little taste of it after that one game. But Slowbro also being banned too. I mean, that Unite move is just way too powerful, shuts down that carry instantly, and of course, you don't really want to deal with it on the other team. But I do think that this Scizor / Scyther ban is pretty interesting. I mean, Chef, do you have anything to mention about that, or why you think that could be the case?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the Scyther ban in particular. I do not know, quite honestly. It hasn't really had any changes. I know that a lot of other regions really highly value it. Japan actually kind of picked it up from South America, and South America teams like Fusion have been using a lot of it. Teams like Rework Respawn have been using a lot of Scyther. So we don't see it a lot in this region, but I mean, it's good. It's just we don't get to see it too much.
Yeah, and we're seeing a Metagross too. If I'm not mistaken, Metagross is another one of those Pokemon that has kind of seen some love in recent times. Scarf was hovering over the Cram. They're just playing with us at this time. Just please give it to us. Please give it to us, Mew. Justice for Cram, honestly, after receiving so many hand slap nerfs over the last few months, but finally seeing some love. I want to see it in this tournament.
Justice for Mew is looking very tanky in that front line. Chef, the Trevenant, Blissey, and the Umbreon. Massive heals and massive tanking.
Yeah, I think this comp is going to work out really well. Glaceon still, even post nerfs, going to be good at melting a lot of these like kind of brawlers, which we do have multiple of on this side. Also going to be good at kind of auto locking onto that Absol, which is always going to be a huge pain. And it seems like there's going to be a lot of damage behind that big tanky front line.
And we'll have a good cast, you two. We're going to get into game number 1, Justice for Mew and Fallen Crows. Curly and Chef are going to be taking you home.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Chef, what do you think about these two comps? I know you mentioned a lot that how Justice for Mew, they have a lot of potential with that backline. Is there a team comp here that you prefer over the other one?
Well, the big question mark to me is Metagross, because Metagross was, I would say, maybe the second most buffed Pokemon in this patch. Maybe. But the thing is, it's not sure whether or not or I guess people are not sure yet whether or not those Metagross buffs are enough. It's been showing up in a lot of like competitive teams, even in like NA and EU, but it doesn't usually pop off all that much, so maybe just a little boost is going to be enough. I do really like I said, the backline in particular. We got to talk about the players too. Flareon's extremely good special attacker player, especially on that Mew. Obviously the team's name is Justice for Mew, but it's an incredible Pokemon if you've got a player like Flareon's that can actually kind of pop off with it. We've got some great players on the other team as well. This is going to be, I think, super competitive either way.
Yeah, I am really excited to see both of these teams here in this set, 'cause I think both of these comps are very interesting. We have some interesting comps going into this first game. The tanky front line with the high damage in the back line for Justice for Mew, and Fallen Crows rocking that Metagross and also an Absol, I think is very intriguing in my opinion. So excited to see who ends up coming out victorious as we kick off our first game between Justice for Mew and Fallen Crows.
And we are going to see how things are going to be kind of spread out. Both the evolutions taking a little bit more of the center. Two members super low. I was going to say 4 Fallen Crows already in this top path, but that's not making them afraid at all. They were able to get that one singular KO very quickly. We do get a chance to see that the Trevenant is going to be that top path brawler for Justice for Mew, and I think that currently a lot of people would consider it the best top path brawler and one of the best defenders in the actual defender role, so it can kind of just do whatever it wants, but it's a little bit of a tough start, and we're going to see what happens when they kind of go 3v3 up here.
Yeah, things are already getting pretty interesting here. I mean, that shield really came in clutch for that Beldum there, as we do see them getting that evolution. Looks like majority of that experience from that the wild Swablues there went to the side of Fallen Crows. They were able to get those evolutions online, so things are looking pretty good for them up here in this top pad. Looks like they're gonna apply some pressure here, almost getting that KO on the Chansey. They were not quite able to knock them out. Looks like they're gonna try to keep applying that pressure up here in this top pad. They do finally get the KO on Chansey. They're going to continue trying to see if they can push it back this Phantom. Metagross getting in those scores. They're going to try to help Eldegoss do the same as well here. Phantom really can't play too far forward or else they're going to get caught out.
This is tough. They're being gate kept at that pre-evolution level on both of their Pokemon in top path. The Blissey is not a Blissey yet, it's still Chansey, and then the Trevenant is still a Phantom. And on both sides, that just allowed them to get so many stacks in and so much aggression. So already we lose. I do feel like some of the names on Fallen Crows are kind of like fun names that the players, they're not the actual players' names, but I'm just going to call them that because it's too confusing otherwise. So we lose on this Metagross, already looking like they could very much pop off, and it's built a lot of space as well for Wei Wanho to go kind of deal with the bottom, deal more with center, and now everybody's just so strong, multiple levels ahead, and you can see they have just no fear of pushing all the way in.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at these levels already. Absol being that level 8, Metagross already a level 7. Eldegoss is super healthy as well. Looks like things aren't looking so good in that bot path though for Fallen Crows, as they did lose their Sylveon and their War Turtle down in that bottom path. So looks like even though Fallen Crows is winning that top path, Justice for Mew is retaliated in this bottom path and winning at that. I mean, check out their positioning over that objective objective down there. Looks like that Registeel is more than likely going to go into their hands. Absol tried to get in there, try to make a difference, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. But Hyper Voice, Sylveon, oh, they had an opportunity there, but they ended up getting pushed out of the way. They're not able to get that Hyper Voice on the Registeel.
Yeah, it was going to be tough. Currently, it seems like a lot of teams are really favoring Electro Ball from Mew as one of the best secures in the entire game, and Flareon's one of the best at it. So it's going to be very, very tough, especially when you got something like Hyper Voice. So you really got to get all the hits, and there was just so many members around. But we did see Fallen Crows take the top path of Regieleki. In the meantime, they weren't able to push all that much else down. I do see that they managed to break the Tier 1 goal zone before it went down. And right now they're trying to break this other Tier 1 goal zone as they're going to be trying to be aggressive. The Hyper Voice is going to be really nice, but it's so hard to lock down this Evolution trying to just run all over you. They're still doing a great job of it, though.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Umbreon is a fairly tanky. I'm gonna be honest, I still love rocking the mean look wish build. I love getting those boosted autos in that mean look, and it does so much damage. But this Umbreon is playing a foul play, so they're looking to deal a little bit more damage there. And you know, a little bit of mobility as foul play does kind of give that little shift with foul play there. Looks like they're really testing some limits there as they try to walk up to that tier 2. Not really gonna be able to get in a score here. I couldn't tell if they were stacking, so they might just be very adamant for a stack there. But meanwhile, we've got a 1v3 situation up here in this top path. Mew getting the secure on the Metagross. I believe it was the Mew that got the confirmed KO for that. So that's going to be really huge for them, given that we did see Metagross have such a phenomenal early game. They're going to want to try to pick off that player as often as they possibly can to try to keep it from gaining any more momentum.
Well, it is going to be a part where you can use it to Unite, and the final hit will be going to Fallen Crows for this big Regieleki, but Unite is starting to come out. Metagross going to be locking in that Trevenant, and they were able to kind of 3v1 it for free. They're going to be pushing this Regieleki down to the tier 2. Flareon's getting caught slightly out of position as well. A double KO, 4-way Wanho on that Absol, and I think with this momentum, they're going to want to continue pushing, but this defensive line, especially with Curse plus the ice here, it's going to be very hard for these tanky frontliners to try and push in. Regieleki He's going to melt as well as Imperial is going to be tanking it. So a good attempt to push from Fallen Crows, but Justice for Mew just had just too strong, I would say, of a wall to be able to break through. And that's what I was saying early in the draft. Like, they are going to be very, very good at melting these tanky frontliners, but they've got a fight here for Registeel as well.
Yeah, this Registeel is on a walk, so it's going to go ahead and get that HP right back. It's going to reset. And Fallen Crows is looking pretty good here in this bot path. Hydro Typhoon coming out of the Blastoise there. They're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing as far up as they possibly can. Eldegoss, oh, so close to breaking that bottom tier 1 there. It's going to be a pretty decent overcap, but Blissy's really putting in the work with those egg bombs there. They're trying so hard to take over this tier 1 though. Blissey is just not having it.
Oh yeah, Imperial and that Blissey was also defending really well up top. Really don't manage to break the tier 1 goal zone, so defense accomplished. A beautiful double hitting beam as well from Flareon. It's gonna hit 2 members, and now everybody's really low. The Glacial Stage to follow it up. That Blastoise is definitely going down. Nice blocking from the Eldegoss. They managed to block some of the Icicle Spears, but the damage was just too high in general. Regardless though, you love to see it, right? Somebody taking one for the team.
I don't think Mew needs any justice because Mew looks like it's doing pretty good. And same with that Glaceon as well, just absolutely shredding Fallen Crows there to get that 3 KOs on their side. That was absolutely massive. That's going to be a free Registeel for them. That's not going to be contested. Fallen Crows can't really make a move on that, but they are making a move on that Regieleki. I think Metagross is going to let that go, though. I think they tried and they're like, okay, my team's not here. We can't do anything about this. Just gonna sit here, keep an eye out, make sure no one else is gonna try to come and take that Regieleki. So we're gonna start to see both of these teams here slowly get into positioning as they finish off the wild farm on their side of the map.
Yeah, they did not have any vision, so I totally understand playing safe. And the points are so close. The levels are close as well. Level 14 Absol, it's really going to have to find a good target, but right now it's sitting very far down on the bottom. It could get a really great flank, and we've seen that happen before, especially being able to catch something like the Mew could be gigantic, but we're going to have to see a big initiation. Every unite in the game is up. The Hydro Typhoon would be a great way to start it if they can find a way to eject button in without actually just getting melted, which is currently what's happening. Still, Absol just kind of hanging out on the bottom. One surf in, but then backing up though. The Icicle Spears might be enough to get the pick. The Hydro Typhoon is only going to be able to pick up one. They do follow it up though with the damage from the Absol, and that's going to be a 5v4 off the bat. Russ on the Umbreon, as well as the Trevenant are pushing in from Justice for Mew. They're going into the backline, but they weren't able to get too much of a pick. Only that super low Blastoise is the one who's going to go down, and 3 members down now for Justice for Mew. Only the Trevenant up, and this looks like it's going to be a full team wipe.
A full team wipe indeed. Massive plays from Fallen Crows here. That Ray is just chipping away, and they're going to get the secure on that, and they're going to go get in those dunks. They are a little bit down on the points, but with those massive Ray shields and the massive scores that they are carrying to these bases, they are going to gain that score lead here. Looks like Absol's going to get the KO on that Blissey, grab some more points for themselves. And this looks like it is a wrap. I mean, there's still about 30-something seconds left in this game, so really not much of an opportunity for Justice for Mew to make a comeback here. So all these teams can really do here at this point is just pad those damage stats.
Or dance. We saw dancing earlier, or surrender, I guess. That's a less fun option. I would have preferred the dancing. I was glad we got to see the dancing in game number 1, but not game number 1 of our semifinals match. So Fallen Crows doing a great job. That initiation was huge, and one of the big buffs that Metagross got was that its Unite move does do more damage, and they use that really well to be able to initiate in a lot of these fights, and then flank with that Absol. So the Absol pick definitely looking very, very strong. The Metagross buffed now. Got a little bit more damage. Actually, I had to pull up the patch notes because I forgot, but more damage on Gyro Ball, more damage on Zed Headbutt, and it's looking good. I'm liking all the changes we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's kind of shaking up the meta just a little bit, not like too much. I feel like it's definitely made things much more viable. Like we saw that T-Tar in a previous game, and it was looking pretty good. And now we got to see a little bit of Metagross too, and that's also looking really good. And despite Mew getting those buffs, I really do feel like Flareon's on that Mew was just absolutely popping off. Karma also shredding down Fallen Crows. So even though Justice for Mew wasn't able to get the win in this game, we still saw that team doing really well throughout this game. Just unfortunate that they weren't able to win that team fight to win the game for themselves, but still gotta give credit where it's due. They played very well.
I completely agree. I think that their draft strategy really worked out well, but everything was basically going to come down to how they either initiated or were initiated on in that last fight, and especially where the Absol was. And when we get a chance to get kind of back to that last fight, everybody can see that Absol was kind of around the bottom and chose the perfect moment to jump in, even though they had to initiate with kind of, I would say, like one of the weaker Hydro Typhoons they could have in that situation. It built the space where right now you can see Absol just running around, taking out Glaceon, taking out Flareons on that Mew eventually right here, and it was just too much for them to be able to deal with, especially with both of their defenders going down pretty quickly, so they weren't able to peel. So just all about the fight, but really good stuff. I would say that's really close overall, and they just basically have to relook at how one particular engagement goes, which is Unite sometimes, right? I mean, you have your very famous line.
Yeah, and I did notice during that Ray fight, whenever that Absol was going for that flank around that Ray pit, they did push the Blissey away from the team as well, denying their team of those heals. So just really incredible the things that Absol player was able to do. And so we'll have to see what these two teams end up doing going into this game too. We've already got our first ban there, the Slowbro coming from Fallen Crows. I believe they also banned Slowbro in the previous game as well. Justice for Mew is going to lock in that Umbreon ban. I respect it. Umbreon and Slowbro are both phenomenal defenders currently.
Yeah, this is a big sign to me. We are going to see both of those, her two defenders from Justice From You, but Fallen Crows, they did a great job with that Absol, and both Slowbro and Mimikyu really, really good at locking down one target because they basically have Slow Beam and then Mimikyu versions of Slow Beam. So I assume that Fallen Crows really wants to go for some sort of strong speedster once again, and already off the bat, they're getting Leafeon, one of the strongest in the game. So now the question is, Justice From You, how do you answer that? What are they going to be able to kind of pull from, especially now that they've actually been the ones that have banned some of the speedsters that, or sorry, some of the defenders that I think are quite good against speedsters, being able to like mean look speedsters into like singular spots or being able to wood hammer them. So they're going to have to make some sort of adaptation.
Yes, definitely. Justice for you, more like justice for defenders. We're banning so many of them, but that just means we get to see some other defenders that get some love here going into this game too. So we've got that Hoopa player being locked down for Justice From You, and also a Wiggly. I'm so excited. I feel like we don't really get to see Wiggly much in this current meta, but Wiggly was actually the first quote unquote defender that I learned how to play. Honestly, I would really love to see Sing being utilized here, because I just think the crowd control that you get from Sing and just being able to shut down as many of the enemy teammates as you want is just very, very valuable. And looks like Fallen Crows is going to lock in that Metagross again. So already their team is looking very strong as far as damage goes.
They're going really strong anti-dive now. The Wigglytuff, I'm assuming it's going to be Sing. I'm a huge Wigglytuff fan. It was actually also my first main in this game. But the Sing we saw used in the European finals to kind of counter dive from a strong Zoroark dive. And Leafeon can commit without having to, or I should say can dive without having to commit quite as much. But between the Buzzwole and the Wigglytuff, it's going to be really hard for anybody to just fully go in. And so we're going to see the Dragonite, which I think is a really smart choice. Also, side note, I did see in chat, thank you, somebody mentioning that Wei Wan Ho they think is Sadric here. I'm under that impression as well, but I didn't get confirmation. We saw them playing under this name in the EU Cup as well, but great player, of course, well-known player. And Blissey is going to be the final pick. That means we've got 3 supports on Justice From You.
3 supports, but with the Blissey and the Wiggly, those 2 Pokemon alone have a pretty high HP pool. So they're gonna kind of act not just as supporters, but also defenders as well, to try to soak up that damage.
Okay, I gotta say, so I 100% what you said is correct, but Flareons, look at the item build on this. This is gonna be, I think, a center area Hoopa, maybe, or maybe it's gonna be a top path Hoopa, something. It is triple glasses, X attack Hoopa on Flareons. I love this. I'm so excited for this. We got to see a troll comp from LG, or was it LG? No, I'm sorry, it wasn't LG. It was the real comp from Nouns in the EU finals, where Toonslim did an 85k damage game with an EXP share Hoopa like 2 days ago. So I want to see how much damage we can actually get. I'm going to have to expect too that there's a good chance this is going to end up being Trick Hoopa, because it does give you a little bit more damage as far as your autos and being able to do stuff like, you know, run around and be shielded and not be kind of focused down as much. So this is going to be a weird game, but I really like this comp. It's going to be fun.
Honestly, I believe in the Flareon with the damage of Hoopa. I gotta say, anytime that me and my community or any of my friends have goofed around with, you know, like all supporter comps, and we've had a Hoopa player in that supporter comp, that Hoopa player always managed to do an insane amount of damage. And it's absolutely crazy what Hoopa can do when it is focused and prioritizing that damage. So this is going to be very interesting. I think this is probably going to be our most exciting game of the night, given these 2 team comps.
And we are going to see center area Hoopa. That's awesome. I love this. Already, this is going to be my favorite game probably of the day. But right now, top path is looking really tough. Flareon's is going to be level 4 and going to be able to help defend this, especially with red buff and you're running attack type items. It's going to be very hard to push in on this Hoopa. I mean, even with EXP share and more supportive items, they're very hard to deal with in path. And there's really only the aggression of the Leafeon, which is obviously the strongest level 4 aggression in the game probably, but it is kind of alone, at least until we hit a few more power spikes on the rest of the Pokemon up in this top path.
Yes, definitely agree with you there. And well, I mean, here we are with same old song and dance. We do have Hoopa rotating up into that top path. Both teams here just looking for as much experience as they possibly can for their team. Buzzle looking a little bit intimidating in this top lane. I mean, it still absolutely scares me whenever I have to deal with it. But Fallen Crows is really making the push here. 4v3 situation up here in this top path. They are able to shut down the Blissey, they shut down the Buzzwole, and they're going to be able to get in those dumps.
This is a lot to commit to this top path. Yeah, sending all four, and then you can actually see that Dragonair is invading into the Justice for Mew central area, while we're seeing the opposite invasion from Justice for Mew in the Fallen Crows center area. So everybody's just running all over the map. I think that maybe once people start to see what these comps were going to be, they're like, all right, well, we are going to play all of our own games. We're going to have some fun. And I mean, hey, shutting down the jungle Hoopa is important, right? You don't want it to pop off, I guess. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. And then denying those buffs away from it too could be super valuable. Taking that away from that Hoopa player there. But looks like we got Leafeon getting knocked out. Eldegoss soon to fall behind it as well. Justice for Mew is looking pretty good. There is a 10-point lead here on the side of Fallen Crows. Levels are looking pretty even across the board. We do have that level 5 on Blissey, which is going to be great. They are pretty low on HP, but of course having that hyperspace portal Hoopa is going to be extremely valuable for them going into these team fights and being able to extend those team fights, coming back, grabbing that HP and continuing on that fight there. So looks like we're going to try to grab some of that experience, and we are just 10 seconds away from our first set of objectives.
I will say the hyperspace whole Hoopa is a strange choice for this. I do feel like usually when you go like funny attacker Hoopa, you just go for Trick because it does help with your autos, but they are being useful as well. I mean, this is a great team to actually have that with the Wiggly and with the Buzzwole. They're going to be able to do so many good resets, so sometimes you can't be 100% greedy. It's unfortunate. I want to see 100% greed, but this Regieleki is getting burned down. On the bottom side, Fallen Crows managed to take the Regirock, but this Regieleki taken by Justice for Mew, so they're going 1 for 1, and this will almost certainly go in. Nobody's going to be able to get here in time. It's going to have to be a solo Metagross defense, which is just not happening. Regieleki going in, this tier 1 gold zone probably going down. Well, in the meantime, it looks like Justice for Mew is trying to defend kind of solo with that Wigglytuff down on bottom.
Yeah, and not that the Metagross would have been able to survive on that tier 1, but good on the Buzzwole for really knocking it out and away from that pad to allow that Regieleki entry. So that way they could get that tier 1 out of the way as quickly as they possibly can. Now Buzzwole is still remaining a presence here, just trying to be intimidating. Looks like Hoopa's gonna take a look at the central area here. They're not gonna be able to secure any of those buffs for themselves, so the buffs are gonna go to Fallen Crows, which is what we want to see for their team here. Now looking at levels, there is a small tiny little level differential here as we start to get those level 9s online for Justice for Mew, but it's still anyone's game at this point. A fair game for both teams here, and I really think it's gonna come down to winning that Ray fight.
Yeah, they are going to be popping the Unite on bottom with that Hoopa, so that means that Justice for Mew really is prioritizing trying to take down that tier 1 gold zone. They've been pushing it down pretty heavily. Metagross is running down to help, actually maybe going to be backcapping a little bit, while Snorlax is running back to just help defend, and the defense does seem like it's going to work out. The Metagross is going to get caught out. I wonder if they're going to have an opportunity to actually KO it. It is, of course, going to be very tanky. Managed to backcap, destroy the tier 1 gold zone, which is going to be huge. That means now they've got the numbers advantage here while this basement Reggie ends up spawning. We might get the reset, but no, is going to be trading 1 for 1, the Buzzwole for the Leafeon, but that does mean that still the numbers are all here on bottom, and especially when you've got a Dragonite, it feels like it's going to be so hard for you to lose this basement Reggie.
Oh, absolutely. And so now we have a completely uncontested Reggie still going to the side of Fallen Crows. It's going to be pretty massive for them going into, or further going into this mid-game here. They're going to go ahead and try to get in some dunks here on this bottom tier 2. So I think this is a really good call, but you got that Hyper Voice Sylveon that's going to try to stop scores as much as possible. Snorlax doing a great job, though, standing in front of that Dragonite, trying to keep Sylveon away from stopping those scores. They are going to get that knockout. Meanwhile, in the top path here, we've got some massive fighting going on here. Also, just noticed we have a rollout Wiggly. I don't know, it took me that long to realize that. So interesting choice of moveset. I mean, I think both are great. Would have loved to see Sing, in my opinion. That way, it kind of just allows their Buzzwole player to do free damage. But it looks like this Registeel is going to go to the side of Justice from You. So still kind of trading back and forth with these objectives.
Oh, a big initiation here from the Metagross. We've got some time. We could see the Unite start to come out. Metagross is actually down. Must have used it in some other fight somewhere else. That would have been a great way to lock in everybody trying to get down there to that center area. It does look like a few members were ending up going back from Justice from You through one of the Hoopa portals, but the Unite from Flareons, now that they realize that they've got to defend up on that top path, it looks like they're going to try to take down this tier 2 goal zone in the meantime, but this Leafeon is just playing such a good game. These Solar Blades so hard to outrange. It's going to be a big Unite coming in, and it's going to be able to KO the Snorlax. That's not really the target you wanted, though, because you're still not going to be able to fully push in on that Leafeon. So Justice from You will back up, and we do have an opportunity for one of these basement Regis to be taken down before the final stretch, if one of these teams wants to, and I get a feeling that if it's going to be anybody, it might be Fallen Crows because they have such strong secure.
Yeah, not just strong secure, but also look at those levels here. You got a level 13 Metagross and also level 13 Dragonite on their side. I'm sure Leafeon isn't too far behind on that level 13 as well. So just some really great level advantage here for Fallen Crows. It's going to be really interesting going into this raid fight. I mean, we do have a level 13 Sylveon on the side of Justice from You, and so I think that's really going to be probably their MVP going into this this raid fight here. But like you said, Chef, there might be an opportunity to get another bottom Reggie there, and so it was a Reggie steal, and so having that damage buff going into this raid fight is just going to be really, really useful for Fallen Crows.
We also see an attempt to maybe backcap from the Dragonite over and going into the center area, really, essentially. But if as soon as they see that happening, I'm assuming this is going to be the sign to move, and immediately they're going to be getting the KO on the Snorlax. The Unite from the Dragonite could get it into play, but they're already got the numbers advantage on the side of Justice from You. The Hoopa Unite's coming out. That's where most of this damage is going to come from. We do see the Dragonite go in, but it looks like it could very easily get KO'd, just barely escaping. The Unite coming up from the Sylveon to try and close things out, while actually Wigglytuff gets focused down on the side of Justice from You, but that's their only loss so far, taking down 3 strong damage dealers from Fallen Crows, and this Rayquaza is starting to get low. Now it's going to be a 2 versus 3. The Snorlax sitting there alone. You cannot take that down. This might end up going to a flip. Look how low the Sylveon is, and it's now down to basically a 2v2 here for a little bit in the center.
Oh my goodness, this Ray fight has me on the edge of my seat here. That Ray is just being chipped away so slowly, and the secure is gonna go on the side of Fallen Crows thanks to that Leafeon player. Absolutely massive. God, what a crazy chaotic Ray fight there, just constantly like going back and forth with those KOs. You know, when you saw 3 down the side of Fallen Crows, you really thought like, okay, Justice from You, they've got this. That Sylveon was just absolutely schmoving with that low HP, and so you know you kind of wish that Ray was just chipped down just a little bit more so it could get that secure with Hyper Voice, but no, Fallen Crows had it on lockdown, ending this game with 369 points to Justice from You's 222.
Yeah, it was so close. Me too. I mean, how long did we feel like that was over for, right? Like, it was like, okay, this fight's done. This fight's done. This fight's done. It's like, wait, why is this fight not done? Please. But it was, I mean, it was a great comeback. And we lose on the Metagross, looking amazing again. Look at that, 84,000 damage. Trying to say that this is definitely a Pokemon to look at. And of course, we got to look at the damage from the Scenario Hoopa. 57k, which is definitely good considering the damage in this game. It wasn't a super high damage game. So we got the damage going on. We got the resets, but it wasn't quite enough in the end.
It was a really fun game to watch, though, even though I'm sure a lot of us really wanted to see Flareon just to absolutely pop off with the damage numbers, being that central area jungler for their team. But just a very exciting and incredible game from both of these teams here. But yeah, that Ray fight was just absolutely incredible. I really feel like these teams were just constantly going back and forth here, just trading with the KOs, trading with the objectives, and it was just an incredible match to witness.
Now, I do want to go in depth into the troll comp, the Hoopa damage comp. I do feel like there were some interesting move choices that I would have liked to see differently. Now, of course, there are a lot of interesting things, like the rollout potentially could have been to try and beat the Metagross Unite, because once you get caught in that like circle, you might just be able to roll around and be a funny little ball for 45 seconds. But I feel like Sing alongside Hyper Voice is a great, well-known combo because they both lower special defense, and if you can Sing somebody, then get a bunch of guaranteed hits of Hyper Voice on them, and then they both lower the special defense, and then you just start auto-attacking them with especially a Trick Hoopa. That's actually kind of a lot of damage, but they didn't go Trick Hoopa, they didn't go Sing, just the Hyper Voice was there to kind of increase that damage. So could have gone some different directions, but regardless, it was a very close game. It was really fun to see the comps like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When I saw that rollout quickly, I was like, that's kind of a choice, especially as you mentioned, like with the Hyper Voice Sylveon and having a Buzzwole on your team too. I mean, not just being able to lower that defense, but also just stopping them, putting them to sleep, and allowing your damage dealers to be able to just punch and do whatever they want, deal out the damage that they need to do and get those knockouts. I think it probably would have synergized just a little bit better for their team. But all in all, just a very exciting match to witness. So I think that puts Fallen Crows 2-0 against Justice for Mew. And so we should be getting ready for our next set of games, I believe. Chef, is there anything else you want to add on to this game?
No, just thank you for showing me a center area Hoopa. That was a lot of fun. And also, be wary of Metagross for the rest of this tournament, because it is looking scary.
We're going to go ahead and take a quick break as we get your next set of games, your grand finals ready here. So don't go anywhere unless you need to stretch and get some water, but we'll be right back with more Pokemon Unite Chaos. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Unite Battle Hub Elite Tour, where we are giving you the action for the NA qualifiers, first qualifiers of the month. I have with me Wonder Chef and a Steel Agent Kyle here, who are going to be giving you all the action for the grand finals between Fallen Crows versus Ignorance. Now, Kyle, you were tuning in to the last set that me and Chef were casting. Did anything stand out to you? Anything you want to talk about from that set of games?
I just wanted the rollout Wiggly to get some love in the sunshine. It's just such a fun, cheesy Pokemon. I saw what they were trying to do with going into the Metagross, so definitely like that play. You know, to set up that compute and crush and then just roll all over it. But fortunately, it didn't quite work out. The Jungle Hoopa was fun, but yeah, unfortunate for them. But you know, definitely a fun, cheesy build.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really fun set to be able to witness. So we've got Ignorance coming into the picture here. We have not been able to spectate any of their games up until grand finals here. Chef, do you have anything that you want to mention or highlight about Team Ignorance here? Any expectations you have going into this set?
Yeah, I love watching Ignorance. They're a really fun team, and also they've got some of the best names on planet Earth for Pokemon Unite. Just across the board, they've got a really amazing one. So they usually win our best names competition. I will say that we expected them to do quite well, of course. I believe they may have been the highest seeded overall, but they're a team that has done very well throughout a lot of just every tournament across the board, whether it be UCS or other like grassroots ones. And just a reminder to everybody, the winner of this match qualifies for the finals at the end of the month for the big money. So these teams are both one set away.
Yeah, $500 prize pool. That is some nice cash money here. So we'll just have to see who ends up coming out victorious, as this is the final set, the grand finals. And as Chef said, either going to be Fallen Crows or Ignorance meeting the getting to the end getting to the main event to battle it out for that cash there. But here we go. We've already got our first bans. We've seen so many defender bans today. Kyle, how do you feel about it?
I mean, I'm down for the defender bans. I think I've said it before, and I'll continue saying it. It's tough, but I really do think that they kind of deserve it.
Absolutely, and we're gonna start to see our first picks here. Chef, if there's anything that you would like to see right now, right here, what would it be?
I think Trevenant is great. I do think that, once again, the way that this bands have been set up, Fallen Crows is indicating that they are going to use a strong speedster. So I will say as well that I really like the fact that we saw the Leafeon banned kind of later on in this draft, because they don't want them to get that Leafeon once again like they did in the last game that we saw on broadcast. They are going to have a chance a little bit later. We'll see what they end up picking up. I feel like Comfey could be a great support for them as well if they want to. Like a Comfey Zoroark would be great, but we'll see what they end up doing. Ooh, double defender.
Ooh, that is going to be one disruptive line here. That front line is going to be very tanky and very annoying with that crowd control. So yeah, really interesting to see these defenders and support being picked up first. Fallen Crows prioritizing the supports, defenders, and Ignorance kind of prioritizing that damage. Kyle, anything you want to mention about our draft phase so far?
Yeah, T-Tar. I'm just staring directly at T-Tar, especially against something like a Crustle that typically has a lot of shields. I'm thinking like T-Tar is going to be diving that Crustle if it goes into Rubble Rouser, just to try to do a lot of that true damage onto it. If it's able to kind of KO those things, Fallen Crows is going to struggle mightily. I think the buffs to T-Tar are just really strong, and I'm excited to see what it can do against this tanky comp.
I definitely agree with you there. Well, alrighty, Chef and Kyle, y'all take it away. I'm going to go ahead and head behind the stage, and best of luck to all the players, and enjoy the game.
I will say I'm really excited because Ignorance is one of the teams that did use T-Tar before the buff. I mean, Jupiter on the T-Tar was a thing, whether it worked or didn't. And so be able to see now, obviously a player who really likes that Pokemon, there's really no other reason why you really commit to it so much, being used in a spot where maybe it's really competitively viable now could be awesome. And especially against Double Defender, I feel like all the true damage that T-Tar does is going to be potentially really strong, and I'm excited to see it. Yeah, like the T-Tar player playing T-Tar post buff.
Yeah, I've been on the wrong end of some Jupiter T-Tar games, and that was well before the buff, so I'm very excited to see what he could do. There's only like a handful of people that regularly play that character that I trusted that to play before the buffs, and it's going to be insane. I really hope that we could see, you know, just maybe a T-Tar pop off here. But yeah, like you said, interesting that that Fallen Crows ended up picking more defenders once T-Tar is already gone. Like, what do you think is kind of that counter pick to something that just got buffed like T-Tar?
It's so hard to say just because it is a lot scarier now. I think something like the Sylveon would have been good against it. Something that can really kind of space it out because it doesn't have really good kind of jump in mobility. And quite honestly, the entire team of Ignorance does not have super high mobility. So something that was like a really strong special target, obviously Mew is a great example of that. But even potentially going something like Mew plus, I don't know, Gardevoir or Chandelure could be great. Right now, though, maybe you just don't need to deal with T-Tar if you never let it get to Tyranitar. You just rush top as fast as you can, score as much as you can, and it's already looking quite good for Fallen Crows.
Yeah, getting a couple of stacks in that early little push here, allowing Crustle to grab that red buff, get it evolved, and is this kind of like that top lane demon? And oh, the Rock Tomb is going to catch them out. Blissey going to be going down again, but here comes this Combuskin trying to get some of those revenge KOs, but Scyther's going to dash on right away.
We are just seeing so much fighting up top, but 4 members now from Fallen Crows. They're all going to collapse right when the 850 spawns happen, and that's going to give them a huge advantage as well in that experience. Hitting level 5 on that Scyther is going to be a huge buff, and we do confirm that it will be staying the Scyther. Jupiter just not able to do so much. Finally evolving, so it is going to be able to hit somewhat of a power spike. Still not going to be the strongest thing in the world. Mew going to be able to probably zone them out a pretty good amount while we're just continuing to farm everything that's around here in this top path.
Yeah, so they might have got their hands caught in the cookie jar a little bit too deep there, allowing Jupiter to get online as that Pupitar. Now it looks like Ignorance is kind of setting up 8-minute Altaria family going to be joining the fray in this middle area, and they are mostly ready for it.
They are. This is really scary, though. If Mr. Rhyme gets caught out, especially by this Scyther, they could get KO'd very quickly. And yeah, seeing that, I think maybe decided to back up as 4 members are there, and they are actually going to get caught out. A nice little way to try and stop it, but actually maybe an unfortunate Rock Tomb. They will end up getting that KO, but that Rock Tomb actually almost stopped them from being able to. And now Jupiter, not quite alone, but in a spot where they may as well be alone. Nice usage of the mobility. They will be getting back to their goal zone. And one thing that's interesting, we're seeing Stealth Rock out of what I think is Sadric here on that Crustle.
Yeah, I think we saw it maybe in one game before, but yeah, not typically the build that you see with Crustle. You usually see that X Scissor just with the, oh wow, Blaziken grabs the KO on that Eldegoss with a nice little eject play into the overheat. But yeah, we're seeing both of these teams kind of prioritize this top lane for quite some time. Blaziken went actually for a little bit of invade into the Fallen Crows jungle, knowing that they kind of overstayed that top lane.
Yeah, a little bit of a back cap on the bottom tier 1 goal zone. Yep, exactly right there. Protein Shake going to be able to get a little bit in, but most of the fight is going to be happening up at the Regieleki, where the confirmation will be from that Scyther. It did seem like that was going to be the case. It had to be kind of a miracle steal from the Mr. Mime to stop it, and I don't know if they're going to be able to break this goal zone before Regieleki goes in. No, that does mean that their overdunk options are much more limited, and that was actually not a very big overdunk. So the fact that they were at least delayed a little bit means that's a pretty good situation, but they are not going to stop with just a tier 1 goal zone. They're moving into the center area.
Yeah, they're moving and grooving that green illusion dive along with the Mew confirmations with that Electro Ball. Make it a triple KO for that Mew. And now Fallen Crows is getting some justice for Mew here in this tier 2 goal, bringing it down to 29. And already at the 6-minute mark, 207.57, Fallen Crows has a huge advantage.
They do, and I mean, especially just the fact that they're not ready to be this Tyranitar yet. They are just so short of finally hitting that power spike, but it's been so late into this game. They really wanted to already be there. They need to kind of group up as a team to win these team fights, and they just don't have everybody ready to fight quite yet. So we've got to see Ignorance try to find every single little bit of farm that they can. Finally, we're going to see Jupiter turn into that Tyranitar, and now maybe the fights will begin. We're actually going to see a few members rotate down to that bottom, essentially going for the tier 1 goal zone for the side of Ignorance. Fallen Crows, they've only got a few members defending, but this rotation down could lead to a team fight.
Yeah, Scyther's staying up on the top side, but it looks like Fallen Crows is positioning to make the defensive stand here. Looks like Blaziken's going to push this Trevenant over into the middle of it. Trevenant brings out the Phantom Forest. Eldegoss Cotton Cloud crash healing, doing some healing. Now we have Mew firing some solar beams into the back line. Mew boosted basic attack, not enough damage onto this Blaziken. And another big beam. And wow, Fallen Crows is just taking and just forcing their will against Ignorance here in this bottom path, and I think they're going to try to continue to push this goal, but Mime Showtime is out. Are they going to be able to stall it out just enough? Crustle does get it. It's a very small overcap, but now we have a KO streak of 2 for this T-Tar who's online.
Finally able to kind of join the fight, and Scyther's gonna be taking a ton of damage once again, going for the Unite, not able to really get all that much off of it except for being able to escape. And there is going to be a basement Reggie spawning in 1 second, so exactly right now. I know that we want to see Ignorance take this tier 1 goal zone before they try to take that, but there's a lot of damage they've got to get through. Mew is just gonna do such a good job of sitting in that back line and dealing with this low range team. They've got to all group up, they've got to dive in and make their initiation known, but they can't even escape right now. The Rock Tomb was able to shut them off from their path that they were trying to get to. They did manage to get 1 KO, but now, once again, Jupiter in a tough spot.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have another fight over this same Reggie basement. Reggie, Cotton Cloud Crash does a bit of damage. Crustle is going to be there to clean up with a double KO streak of 2, and Eldegoss is going to get that T-Tar. And now Fallen Crows is going to peel back towards this basement Reggie that has been, it seems like this has been on the map for quite some time, Chef.
It has. It's like, where is everybody going? I'm right here. Pay attention to me. But what's been paid attention to? Okay, finally, they are actually going to get that KO. But Fallen Crows has taken almost every goal zone in the game. Phantom Force is coming out. They're going to try to continue to push down. Maybe try to get every single destroyable goal zone if they can make things happen. It does look like they're going to be turning around, trying to take down Scribblenaught on this Mime. They're going to successfully do so. The Unite coming out. Probably the last moments we're going to be able to see Unites in this game. So everybody's popping everything that they can. And they're going to use it quite well on the side of Ignorance to turn things around. Getting 3 KOs is going to give them a huge amount of experience, especially when they manage to get one of those KOs on the level 13 Scyther. So if there's one reason why, if we can end up seeing a comeback come from Ignorance, it might be that they were able to get so many KOs in those final fights.
Oh, and they might have pushed a little bit too far after that KO streak of 4 for the Sylveon. Jupiter's just barely living. He finally goes down. That 1 HP in a dream. That's a nightmare for them. 240 left on the clock. 311, 117. Ignorance has a little bit of ground to make up. They definitely won a bit of that team fight, getting a ton of levels. You got that Blaziken at level 13. You have Sylveon that's ticked into level 13. And now T-Tar level 12. Hoping, if I'm Ignorance, I'm absolutely pumping as much XP into that T-Tar to try to get it into that level 13 as possible.
Yeah, that would be a really big game changer. And honestly, though, looking at the levels, it's pretty much exactly even. There's just a slight, like half a level advantage on the side of Fallen Crows. So those fights in the end, even though they did manage to get KO'd, I mean, for Ignorance, that even just maybe reset some of their respawn timers. Not the worst thing in the world. The points lead is pretty significant, just under 200. So they do have an opportunity to easily get the win if they do manage to take Ray with a pretty solid team fight. Right now, though, the scare I would say would be backcapping. If Ignorance lets some backcaps go through, then they won't be able to make the comeback even with a Ray win. But everybody's really split up, and honestly, Fallen Crows is really starting to do a decent amount of damage to this Rayquaza.
Yeah, they're just forcing Ignorance to try to walk in, and walk in they do. The T-Tar is absolutely running and sprinting in. Nice little rock tomb there, catches 3 of them, and the Cotton Cloud crashes out. Big Muse Solar Beam, and that's a ton of damage into the back line by the Fallen Crows. And now it's the team of Ignorance that's fallen like crows. Scyther with a couple of big KO streak of 2. 4 members down for Ignorance, and it's just this Blaziken. They're gonna overheat to push out this Scyther, but it's this Eldegoss that's gonna clean it up. And now Fallen Crows has a chance to either score or take this Rayquaza, but Ignorance is coming back in.
They are, but not quite fast enough. Just enough burn on the side of Fallen Crows. Good call as well to not run away fully on the side, or from we lose, I should say, on the side of Fallen Crows. They were at like 1 HP, but they did need that damage in the end, and even the self-sustain of Scyther was going to be enough to heal them back right there. So an amazing initiation, which is, I would have to say, undoubtedly going to close this first game out in the favor of Fallen Crows. I want to watch that entire sequence again. That first rock tomb into the Phantom Forest, into the Rubble Rouser. It was like an eject button in Rubble Rouser. Every single thing about that was a beautiful team fight, like one of the best executed that maybe I've ever seen. They found that moment, and they certainly earned this win, even though it looked like Ignorance was starting to have a chance again.
Yeah, that was just a masterclass on a Ray fight. You had your tanky Pokemon engage. Eldegoss picking up a cheeky little KO at the end there. Doesn't really matter. Fallen Crows, they are going to be taking this one 1-0, and they're one step closer, Chef, from getting into that main event for the $500 cash prize.
Yeah, this is I don't want to say like a surprise, but definitely, Ignorance is a very, very well-known UCS team, and Fallen Crows has some very well-known UCS players as well. I mean, I would say it's a UCS team as well. I think it's maybe not this entire team together, but they are using different names. Again, it's very confusing. If you want to troll key casters, definitely just change your names all the time. It might be a full UCS team, but they are looking incredibly good, and they're using a whole lot of new stuff as well. The Scyther, though, I gotta point that out. I was saying it before, but NA and EU are just not really using Scyther, while Japan and South America are very much using Scyther. So to see one finally really pop off the exact way that it needs to, I think this is a great sign that Fallen Crows have really done their research.
Yeah, I mean, Scyther is one of those Pokemon. It's got that really good early game, especially if you're able to catch, a couple people out of position. Here you go. Yeah, Scyther comes up level 3, gets the early KO on Larvitar. And that's the thing. I know we kind of talked about it a couple of times. If you're able to kind of prevent and stall out this T-Tar from getting online at that level 9, you're going to be, giving yourself a pretty good advantage. And Scyther is one of those Pokemon that can really, get online very quick.
It also has the unique ability to be able to kind of harass from more of a range, right? With the double wing beat, you got that extra little bit of it's kind of like a mid-range assassin until it decides to go in, but then it can go in and unite and get out very quickly. So I think when you have something like, an overheating Blaziken and a Tyranitar and a Hyper Voice potential, or actually really anything really on Sylveon, you're a little bit scared to go some sort of speedster that fully commits, because you're going to just be taking a bunch of accidental damage. But Scyther doesn't have to do that. They can sit there, they can harass, they can wait until their moment, and just like this, you see, they found their moment to be able to commit, and this was the fight. Beautiful. We actually saw the beam from the Mew, we saw the unite from the Scyther, we saw the Phantom Forest from the tree, everything all together. It was just a beautiful initiation. That one, if I was playing on that team, I would save that clip probably for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, definitely going on the highlight reel for sure. So big game number 1 for Fallen Crows. Team Ignorance, they're going to have a little bit of an uphill battle if they want to go to the main event at the end of the month. But what did you like about that comp? I mean, I like the T-Tar pick, but it just didn't seem to get online fast enough.
I agree. I mean, we saw in those replays how tough the first few seconds of the game were, right? A lot of aggression from Fallen Crows towards that top path. So what I'd like to see, I think, is some sort of pick, like maybe more evolutions. I know we did see the Sylveon, but just a way to guarantee that you've got a really, really strong top path if you are going to choose that Tyranitar again. And that could be maybe pairing it with like a Hoopa or an Eldegoss, who are also going to be very, very strong at being able to prevent being run over like that, or just somebody from the center area that's going to be able to pop off really fast. If you can, of course, get the Leafy on yourself, that would be optimal, but these teams are probably going to ban it. So just something with protecting the T-Tar, because I feel like it's going to have a similar role to current Garchomp, where it's like, yeah, if it gets online, it's scary, but if it doesn't, it's nothing.
Yeah, it would have been fun to see Mr. Mime in that match go with Power Swap. I would love to see them open the door, get on the floor, and walk that dinosaur. But unfortunately, they went barrier. It didn't get the fun leashed dinosaur, which is just so fun to see. I am a big fan. I don't know about you, I'm a big fan of kind of like these cheeky comps and kind of doing like weird interactions between either your own teammates or interactions between the enemy team. Obviously, Cram Lapras is probably my favorite thing right now, but walking the dinosaur, it's up there.
Yeah, I love all the fun little interactions. I mean, we got to see it in the last set with all the Hoopa stuff, with all basically anything that Justice from You did. That was really fun, and I agree. And there's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, actually, you and I were talking earlier about the Sweet Kiss Comfey potentially on Tyranitar. I think that's another one. We see that competitively a decent amount, like just a little bit, not super often, but I feel like that could be another trick that could be pulled out and just like for one game to kind of bring the momentum back. And there's a lot of fun little things in this game. That's part of what makes Unite so awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking for Ignorance to really step up. Like you said, they're kind of like one of those teams for the longest time, and if correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to be at NAIC. They've been a team all season long that's kind of just been on the cusp, just outside of top 8. Obviously, getting there this time. So I'm excited to see what they do at NAIC. But they're always kind of like just on the cusp of breaking out, and I personally want to see them break out mostly because I run into them on ladder a lot, and I just need some validation in my life.
That is totally fair. Well, I mean, I just love watching them. They've got really fun play style, like I said, great names, but this is definitely the time to practice for them. I think they qualify for NAIC. I know they were like right on the cusp once again, but I do believe I'll double check that one. Regardless, going into these first bans, one thing that we've been seeing banned a lot that's finally free is the Umbreon, so we're going to be picking that up first for Fallen Crows, and especially if they want to kind of, I mean, they haven't been focusing the speedsters as much this time around, but it seems like they really like to focus on their kind of melee carries, and Umbreon's another one that can shut that down really well, whether it be via foul play or whether it be via mean look. So I think that they are going to once again really be trying to go for something strong. I mean, the Scyther is a great example. Technically, I don't know if you call it speedster, but it's a speedster really, and Hoopa being picked up as well.
Yeah, we've seen Hoopa played, I believe it was last series. I think also maybe in Series 1. Very impactful. You're allowed to just play a little bit with a little bit more pace, and you're kind of force the enemy team to really make quick decisions, because a Hoopa can either reset somebody or move people up and down the lane with Hyperspace Hole. So it's going to force Ignorance to really just be very deliberate on the decisions on what they're pushing or what objectives they're going for.
Now, we do get a chance to see that Cupid is going to be going for the newly, I mean, not really nerfed that much, but Gyarados, the slightly nerfed Gyarados. I believe they just reduced like the cooldown on the Unite move or something. It's still going to be basically the same powerhouse that it was, and I like that a lot, but they are going to really have to be careful because every early path is going to be really strong for Fallen Crows, so Ignorance could end up getting shut down again. I'd love to see them pull out something else that's strong early in the game. The Sylveon's going to be strong early, the Eldegoss is going to be strong early, and that's kind of all they have right now, which is, it's not nothing, but this is interesting. Are we going to see a center area Metagross?
That's very possible. I mean, you could also, potentially do like maybe a split jungle, but yeah, I think it's most likely going to be going to that central area because you definitely don't want your Magikarp taking your jungle. But who knows? Anything's on the table. They're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at Fallen Crows to try to get to a game number 3. But I'm taking a look. I do think We Lose is going to be going over to that Scyther. I think it's just so strong. If you're able to kind of keep that the Metagross from getting online, if you're able to keep that Magikarp from evolving to the Gyarados, I think that's going to be pretty crucial, and I think Scyther allows you to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's basically what we saw with Tyranitar. Same thing, right? Tyranitar and Gyarados, they both really need to kind of get online in whatever ways that they can. Obviously, slightly different ways, but if you're getting KO'd, there's just no way, regardless of what Pokemon you are, you're just not having a good time trying to hit your power spikes. So I do think we're going to see the Scyther once again. I think we're going to see a similar strategy of focusing really heavily on the top path, making sure that whatever is up there does not end up popping off. The Metagross, interesting choice as well, because I feel like you really want to have something in the center area that can immediately run up and help your weak path, but Metagross is not going to be that. Even if it hits 5, its power spike is not huge. It's not like it's going to be able to go and just like KO an entire path. So we'll see if it works. The one thing for sure is that we're going to see Ignorance with a really safe, I guess, comp, right? Like they have to play safe. They have to make sure they're not run over. But if they pop off later on, then they're going to be very hard to stop.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Ignorance wants to play a lot of these late scaling Pokemon, which, you know, I mean, it's not a bad strategy. It's just, you know, you have to get to that late game. If you get shut down completely early on, it just makes it that much more difficult to come back. Looks like Magikarp is going to try to defend as best as they can. They are getting hit pretty hard by that Scyther, but Scyther is going to back up at least a little bit before they think to engage on it again.
Not doing too bad quite yet. Yeah, that Scyther's pretty low. Honestly, Magikarp can do kind of a lot of damage with Flail. If it's low, Flail does a chunk. It is not what you'd expect, but there's actually an invasion going on with the Hoopa going into Ignorance's center area. Right now, it looks like Atochirin is going to be KO'd, trying to go and assist with that. It looks like they were able to successfully defend against the Hoopa. I'm not sure if that Hoopa managed to steal any buffs, but it looks like Ignorance is going to take the advantage of knowing that at least 2 members are not going to be there to defend that bottom goal zone to get a few points in, and then ideally try to take a lot of these Altaria, a lot of the birds, but with the last hit potential of Mew, it's not going to be easy, and now they're both very, very low.
Yeah, it looks like Hoopa did come away with that red buff, or the orange aura, as Ender would say. But Eevee is going to be able to get online. That Umbreon's actually going to be going foul play, a little bit different from that standard, you know, mean look set that you've seen. Foul play did get a little bit love, not this patch, but the patch previous. So Fallen Crows looking pretty strong here early on.
They are, which they've basically looked strong early on in every single game that they've played. So we can just tell they're a team that really likes that kind of part of the game. It's really interesting that we are seeing this Hoopa go and farm their own center area. Not an invasion, they're just taking that EXP, but we've seen Hoopa do a lot of damage. We are also at a pretty early Gyarados. I mean, it was a little bit before the 8-minute mark, I believe, which is pretty fine. You're pretty happy with that. There have been much faster, but they've been much slower as well. And now it's going to do a good job of honestly taking this fight, especially with the Rock Tomb coming in, with the Metagross coming in. It's not one quite yet, but they were able to turn that around very strongly. They're going to be able to get very close to breaking this goal zone. And actually, they're going to do it. Not a huge overdunk, but they're going to continue with this pressure, get one more KO.
Yeah, it was like a 10-point overdog. Not too bad. Gyarados getting a KO streak of dose here before the 720 birds spawn in the top lane. And this is actually, Chef, this is a Trick Hoopa with no XP share, I might add. So going a little bit different from that damage Hoopa that we saw Flareon's on a set ago. And wow, big Scyther KO onto that Crustle right before here. But Gyarados is going to clean that up. No harm, no foul. And it looks like Ignorance is going to take interest in this top lane. Regieleki, since they do have that first tier goal zone down.
You know what's funny is I was actually just looking, not only do they not have the EXP share, but they are going the full like auto attack build. So yeah, that was, I don't know why I wasn't really talking about that when that was happening. I was talking so much about like maybe potentially that Metagross has been looking so strong, but we'll see how this goes. And I do really like the Trick. I wish we got the chance to see Trick Hoopa when it was the center area Hoopa earlier, but this is like a full invading Hoopa. They're taking a lot of that center path, and now 2 objectives going down. It looks like the Regieleki is getting close to that top tier 2 goal zone for Fallen Crows. They are trying to defend it, but they are going to undoubtedly push this in. A nice little attempt at defense here, but 2 KOs for Sylveon. That's the Regieleki going in. They do have the points to break it if they want to, and that could set up a huge threat of every Regieleki after this point. They haven't done it quite yet, but they can if they just want to. There it is.
There we go. Yeah. Nice little overcap. A little bit of Unite player math. They want to make sure that they're optimizing their scores. And not only that, Chef, but Ignorance is taking a liking to the side of Fallen Crows' jungle. They're saying that is our blue buff here. And now we got the green illusion dive from Scyther. They're going to recall those clones, and they're going to jump dive away. Nice little avoiding of getting KO'd there. But they're still, Ignorance is pushing this tier 1 goal.
Oh, look at that, using the Unite from the Gyarados to get out of danger, but they can only get away so far, and then the Unite coming out from the Umbreon trying to steal away every little shield that they possibly can. Still, though, not enough to take down this Gyarados, who's actually going to be jumping back in with that fully charged bounce, getting the launch, and they are just completely turning around on this. A lot of shields going on, might be some buddy barrier action, but Soup Chef in particular is looking very tanky, running all the way in. They're going to be able to KO both their main damage dealers, plus the Umbreon. Only this Blissey left. Hoopa, may I note, just completely on the other side of this path, like literally just behind the tier 1 goal zone, farming and potentially trying to break this goal zone, which they will do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you need to get a win somewhere, and they found one. Although the hill that they need to climb is pretty steep, 83,298 here at the 430 mark. Not only that, but Chef, we do have a Regieleki that might be going down and going to the side of Ignorance, unless Scyther has something to say for it. No, they get KO'd instead. Gyarados taking that Regieleki. Not only that, but it is going to be walking towards their center base.
And this is such a scary front line. They've done such a good job with Jupiter and Protein Shake on the Gyarados and the Metagross. It is, I mean, okay, I was expecting to see T-Tar really pop off today, but we're really seeing Metagross pop off. It is looking very scary with just those little buffs. They are going to be pushing it down, just like you said, but I'm not sure what level of commitment we're going to see from Ignorance here. There's still plenty of time. They can get KO'd, and it looks like they might get KO'd, but we're going to see the Cotton Crash come down to try and just save Jupiter. The Regieleki's not going to be able to go in. It's getting absolutely melted, and at this point, I think Ignorance needs to just try to get out of there. They are getting chased. We are seeing the agility come out from the Mew to be able to kind of try to follow up the pressure of the Scyther. In the meantime, though, only one member of Fallen Crows is going to be down here trying to fight for this Regirock. They're not going to be able to, I think, challenge it, and that is going to go pretty freely, unless it's a miracle. No, it's going to be Metagross once again.
That was close, though. It was closer than it probably should have been. Umbreon does go down at that moment, but yeah, it was definitely a good effort. It definitely seemed like they might have had a shot. It does look like Scyther was able to get a little bit of value in that top half scoring. I think maybe like 30 or so points. Are they going to be able to get the confirmation on this Eldegoss? They're going to get at least one. Gyarados is now here by and is lonesome. Scyther is going to close that out. Chaostrick at 2. Metagross is here for the defenses, but it might be a little bit too late to save his fallen comrade.
Yeah, but maybe can get revenge at the very minimum, doing a ton of damage and just being so hard to take down. But Mew is going to kind of sneak in from the back, and the full team of Fallen Crows is here. Scary thing is you don't want to overcommit your resources. There's 30 seconds left to the final stretch, and another huge part of this is that this Regieleki, if it goes to the side of Ignorance, is going to be the Zapdos threat, essentially. They need to make sure that it does not get taken by Ignorance, and Ignorance doing a great job of pushing back. Now that we're at the 2-minute, 20-second mark, this could lead into a full fight. No Unites used quite yet, but it looks like at least Umbreon going down could stagger it for long enough that it wouldn't be able to be back in time for the Ray fight. They're going to continue to jump down, but that healing is so strong, and the first Unite comes out. That is going to be the Hoopa Unbound, trying to make sure they get at least one pick before this Ray spawns. They are not going to be able to so far. Finally, Umbreon the first to go down.
Yeah, we got 2 down. Hoopa's also going to be going down in that frontline fight. It seemed like a lot of that was a little bit chaotic, but here we go. Ignorance is looking at burning this Rayquaza. They are winning right now, but with a couple members down and out of position, they might think that this is the angle. They do peel off a little bit. Mew backs out with Mythical Mirage. Rayquaza is going to start maybe resetting here in a couple seconds. We have a little bit of damage coming out. Here comes the Moonlight Prance from Umbreon, stealing a couple of shields, getting a KO onto that Eldegoss, so no healer on the side of Ignorance, but 2 revenge KOs on the side of Ignorance. Ignorance gonna get a couple of members of Fallen Crows triple KO Garrett Trace, more like it, in the center path for Ignorance, and now they might have a chance to take this right.
This has to be a steal basically at this point. I mean, we do see the attacker Hoopa is doing a lot of damage to Soup Chef, but it's not going to be able to get away so long against it. Jupiter finally gets rock tombed out. It does have the opportunity to steal. It's going to have to get the perfect hit, but no, it's going to be Gyarados getting that final hit. And on top of that, the collateral hit onto the Hoopa, and that should basically wrap this up for Ignorance. 44 seconds left. There were going to be a ton of hundo burgers going in, and Fallen Crows says, let's just take it to a game 3.
Oh, I love game 3s. Laying it all on the line here. Wow, what a performance by Ignorance to come back after losing that first match. Here we go. Final score 298. 162, you're fine. Obviously, Ignorance probably would have got a couple more scores, like you said, had the rest of that gotten played out. But overall, looking pretty good. Looking at these KO numbers, Jupiter, 12 KOs, 6 assists on that Gyarados. That Gyarados was super impactful once it got online from Magikarp.
Oh, whoa, more impactful than I thought. 129,000 damage. Sheesh. And I mean, it did get there at level 8. It did get that pretty quick evolution. A big difference from what we saw before. The Scyther was able to do a pretty good job, but it wasn't able to run over that top path like we saw in game number 1. So I would have to assume that a lot of focus is going to be put on that top path, whether it be in bans or how, I guess you kind of focus where you're going to put the pressure on, because so far that's seemingly been the deciding factor. And I think no matter what happens, you don't want to let Jupiter get another 130k damage Gyarados.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. But yeah, big game there for Ignorance. We are going to be going to a game number 3. Yeah, here's some of the highlights from this match. Like we said, it seemed like Ignorance really controlled the pace that entire match. It didn't seem like really there was any doubt in my mind that they were going to kind of control it kind of once that tier 2 went down. They really kind of imposed all their levels directly into Fallen Crows' face until that very last fight, though, Chef. It seemed like Fallen Crows might have had an opportunity had they maybe popped all of their Unite moves a little bit earlier. They might have caught Ignorance unsuspecting and could have maybe pivoted that to that Ray fight.
I agree. And then they ended up using it in the middle, and then they came back and didn't have their Unite move. So it was just one of those awkward timings. But they've definitely got a lot to think about. And of course, we're going to be setting up for game number 3, the final game of Grand Finals, to see who qualifies for the finals. I'm just going to say that word a lot at the end of the month. But we're going to take a short break while we set them up to make sure that we've got some time. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to be closing out the Elite Tour NA Qualifier number 1 for May right after this.
Welcome back in, Pokemon Unite trainers. We are back with game number 3 of the grand finals of the May North America qualifiers here at Unite Battle Hub. And with me, I'm Sealagent Kyle. We have Wonder Chef. Are you excited for game number 3, Chef?
I am. Honestly, we've now seen 2 attacker Hoopas, and it has not quite worked out either time, but I'm enjoying the spice that these teams are bringing. I mentioned it before, but the Metagrosses have been looking really, really good, and these teams have brought a lot of really unique stuff just in general. So both these teams, the fact that they managed to bring it to a game 3 to qualify for the finals at the end of the month, it seems like they're definitely going to kind of go all in for this next one.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, we're going to see more defender bans. Slowbro, I just feel like, is one of those defenders, and no matter how many times it gets nerfed, it's always going to find a ban some way, somehow, because a team wants to play something that the Slowbro Unite move can just absolutely shut down.
Yeah, I always say that Slowbro's place in the meta is not based on its strength. It's based on how strong of of everything else is, right? Like, for example, when we were in competitive meta where we would have, I don't know what a good example is. Let's just say right now, or let's say like with Blastoise, right? When Blastoise was 100% even more broken than the last patch, it was such a target for Slowbro all the time. And obviously still quite good, but we've got a lot of other great targets that you could end up hitting, and they just do not want that to happen, especially Fallen Crows playing such speedster-based game. I'm curious to see which one they're going to choose this time around, whether it's going to be the Scyther or not again.
Yeah, I mean, time will tell, but both teams are putting high priority on defenders. 3 picks down, 3 off the board. Got Crustle on the side of Ignorance, and then Umbreon Blastoise on the side of Fallen Crows. And Ignorance going right back to what worked for them in game number 2, going with that Gyarados.
Yeah, it seems like these teams are still kind of drafting their own game plans rather than kind of counter drafting. I kind of feel like giving the Umbreon away to Fallen Crows is playing into their game, and then giving the Gyarados back away to Ignorance is playing their own game once again. This time, though, I really like this. We see a lot of Buzzwole just dominating the early game in that top pass. So if you can just dunk that Magikarp around a little bit more than it wants to, start getting some KOs on it, we're not going to see it pop off nearly as hard as it did in that last game. Plus, the early pressure of the Espeon, altogether, it just seems like they've got a higher priority on making sure that they are not going to get hit with another 130k damage Gyarados.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage to try to outdo, but Jupiter might be up for the task. Looks like Fallen Crows is going to go for seemingly a late game carry. They're hovering over this Greninja right now, but actually they're going to go another speedster here. They're going to be going with that Absol.
Yeah, we have seen the Absol work really well earlier today. I'm not sure how it's going to feel against this comp. If it ends up being a hyper voice, then it might be a little bit more difficult to like catch with the hyper voice, I should say. But we are seeing the potion, so I'm thinking maybe we're going to see Mystical Fire on the Sylveon. And now it just means I don't know what the target's going to be from the Absol, but it's still going to be very scary. The burst damage potential from Fallen Crows is off the charts. Ignorance, though, I like the fact that they stole away the Scyther, which is potentially a Scizor or a Scyther. It means that they at least have to change up their game plan once in this 3-game set.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that Fallen Crows was playing really well with. I'll be excited to see what Ignorance is going to be able to do with it. It might have been it might be a scissor build. I didn't quite see exactly which items that they had on it, but I thought I saw a weakness policy, which leads me to believe that might be more of that scissor, that more brawly comp. You know, weakness policy more of like, I want to be in the fight for a long time, and scissor is kind of that definition. That's when it really thrives.
Oh yeah, it is very hard to take down with the correct support, and we did see, yeah, that was that and the amp, or the energy amp, and then I did not see what the other item was. I could definitely check in a second, but I agree with you. There's a very high potential that we could see the Scizor. I've seen a few weakness policies on Scyther, which I don't really understand, but it still has worked out before, so we could definitely see it to be Scyther as well. But Scizor did just do extremely well in the OCE region. They won with, I mean, many times. Ground Zero Gaming won their regionals with Joe Megalol on that Scyther, or sorry, on the Scizor, not the Scyther. So we'll see what it ends up being.
Yeah, it's going to be going to the central area, getting online. So we'll see what it's going to end up being sooner than later. I do like this Magikarp Eldegoss combo. I think we kind of touched on it earlier. Eldegoss is a Pokemon that's really good in that early game, able to kind of protect your top lane partner. That's kind of what Magikarp needs, especially with how tough it is to get online at Gyarados.
Yeah, this is, I think, one of my favorite combos. I mean, basically, this or Hoopa I love seeing to be able to kind of help along with that poor little fish. But it's going to be tough dealing with what they've got up top, regardless of that support. And so far, it's just been a lot of safety. Basically, been a lot of safety from both sides of that top path. Like I said, the winner of that top path has won the game pretty dominantly both times. So this is where they're going to start to collapse on each other. We're going to immediately see the dunk in and Protein Shake going down before they get a chance to do anything. A ton of dunks in, a 4v3 would turn into a 4v2 top, and that means that this poor Magikarp is almost undoubtedly not going to be there by, I should say, at the Gyarados by the 8-minute mark. It's got a lot of grinding to do.
Yeah, that's rough, buddy. Yeah, the Eldegoss also not able to get online quite yet. Yeah, Jupiter is going to be climbing, or I should say flopping that uphill battle. Absol looking to do some damage going shopping in the enemy jungle, but they're got shoplifting. They're going to be going down and back to the Pokemon Center. We have Scyther is going to continue scaling, and it is that Scyther. I know level 6 now, so we are confirmed. It is not a Scissor.
Yeah, again, I don't really know the weakness policy idea on the Scyther. Somebody in chat tell me, because I've seen it multiple times and it still feels like Scyther just gets KO'd too fast for it to matter, but hey, I could definitely be wrong, and it does have some self-sustain with double wing beat, so we'll see. But, you know, honestly, Jupiter managing to become Gyarados in time again. Definitely was not shut down as hard as I thought, and that big bounce is going to go in, but in the meantime, Sylveon's going to be the one to fall. Jupiter does manage to get 2 KOs, just barely, finally goes down themselves, and we're just trading KOs on both sides, but that was almost nearly a fully one-sided fight for the side of Fallen Crows. Luckily for Ignorance, they did manage to get those 2, and getting them on particularly one of your hardest carries is going to mean that the EXP is just split perfectly in your favor. We also do get a chance to see this is Mystical Fire, Draining Kiss Sylveon, which the potion was alluding to.
Give the Eldegoss some love here. It needs to evolve. It's still level 3 at 7 minutes left. This Gyarados is pushing in. They're going to bounce on away. And no, we have a frontline level 3 Eldegoss. You never like to see that if you're a little flower. But they're going to try their best to get online. Oh, I just feel so bad. I've been in that support position, and it's just never a good feeling seeing a level 8 Buzzwole on the opposite side.
Yeah, finally getting that little bit of experience, but still the Eldegoss is at level 4. That is half of the average level of Fallen Crows. Okay, now it hits 5, but still, this is going to make it so weak. It needs to just keep getting EXP to EXP, start catching up, but not if you're going to get one shot by the Absol Unite, and that means 2 members down for Ignorance already off the bat. Jupiter getting dunked one more time should probably be enough, but no! The damage coming out from that Gyarados is just too much. The self-sustain just for some of these auto attacks and the shield that it gets from its abilities, it's so deceiving, especially when after you get a KO or an assist, it starts to reset those cooldowns, and Jupiter so quickly back in this fight. Scribblenauts also getting a total of 2.5 levels from that fight alone. A great way to turn that around from what was a 0 HP situation.
Yeah, call an ambulance, but not for me, says Ignorance. And not only that, but they are KOing this goal zone along with that Buzzwole. That's a big bit of catch-up XP. And there goes Absol. They were level 11. That's a huge catch for Ignorance, who is now catching up on the levels as well as their point deficit.
Ooh, yeah, this is a 30-point lead, which is, I mean, honestly, everything is really starting to even up. I mean, this is looking like this could have been potentially another dominant game, but I like the fact that we're so close. We're only halfway done with this game, but like you mentioned, the levels are starting to evenish up. It's a lot more spread on the side of Fallen Crows. They're evener. Ignorance is a little bit more bumpy. So this big objective is going to mean a lot, right? The EXP from the Basement Reggie is going to mean everything. Absol going in, able to just barely take down Scrubble double knot, and that is going to be the sign to push in. Absol taking down Jupiter as well, going for potentially a third there with the Scyther, but the Scyther is going to be able to take down 2 members in return, actually winning the duel with that Absol. It'll just look towards it, make sure that it's not going to do as much damage, and only 1 member up here trying to defend. It's just going to be an Umbreon who's going to be able to either try to steal this final hit on the Regice or defend the goal zone. They choose to try to maybe get a final hit on the Regice, but they're honestly not burning it that quickly on Ignorance.
Yeah, we have the Cotton Cloud Crash is going to come down, Crash, and Gyarados gets the KO on the Regice, and now these the members of Fallen Crows are going to have to expend some Unite moves. The Moonlight Prance is going to come out, giving Umbreon a bit of shields, but here come the Cavalry. We do have Buzzwole back down here. Looks like Crustle is going to try to axe scissor these 420 birds on away from the side of Fallen Crows. Gyarados Dragon Current's going to hit the Buzzwole. Ultra Slow Slam going to be popping in, and Gyarados is going to go down, and now Fallen Crows is going to take a little bit of a push towards this tier 1 goal. Blastoise is going to surf on in, but these HP bars are mighty low for Fallen Crows. They're going down like flies right now. 3 members down. KO streak of 2 for that Eldegoss.
Especially with Protein Shake coming in from the back. That was a perfect flank. And one of the best things about this fight for Ignorance was that not only did they obviously win, they're right now about to get a 4v1, and I would have to assume probably break this goal zone, but the entire time we've seen Jupiter up top just farming, leveling up on that Gyarados to try and carry in that final fight. However, they don't quite get the break fast enough. I think maybe they thought they had more time, but we are seeing the return of the Absol, who immediately gets KO'd, and so unfortunately the defense is not going to hold for Fallen Crows. They're going to have to give up this tier 1 goal zone, and what was a winning situation for Ignorance became an even more winning situation, and they're looking to make it even more winning as we've started to see a rotation into their center area from everybody almost on the team.
Yeah, they're making our blue buff happen here in the enemy jungle, but Absol is taking exception to that. They're taking it right back. Eldegoss is going to have to throw a pollen puff onto this Gyarados, try to keep them alive. Absol is going to go dive right back in. They're only going to be finding the back of the Pokemon Center as Gyarados takes them out. Now we have Gyarados all by lonesome 3 members of Fallen Crows pushing them in this central area. Gyarados going to back towards this tier 1 goal, just kind of trying to get a little bit safe because Blastoise is here trying to surf them out.
This is a really scary situation. We're hitting the 2-minute 30 mark, and we've seen fights before where Unites are used a little bit too early to have full impact, especially as we hit the Rayquaza fight. So I do like the idea of trying to back up here. We see a nice Rock Tomb. I don't know if they're going to follow it up. The big Pounce is going to come in with the bounce, but they do manage to get a big KO on at least the Blastoise. 13 seconds left for both of these objectives to disappear. Nobody going for that top Regieleki is pretty surprising. But this Registeel buff is going to be very nice as Ignorance has an opportunity to make the first move if they so choose. They've got the lead, but they know that the Blastoise was somewhat split up, and they're just going to burn it down, it looks like, maybe.
Yeah, they definitely have the attack and special attack buff from that Registeel. Gyarados going to bounce on into this Blastoise. Blastoise going to Hydro Typhoon. They're going to get a bit of shields, but they're going to be going down. Kawa bummer for Blastoise as Sylveon takes it down. Another pounce in from Gyarados. Eldegoss cleaning up the Sylveon. Umbreon's going to be pushed on out of this, and now you have a little bit of a positional advantage on the side of Ignorance. Are they going to be able to start to rip this 3 members down? Blastoise back and joining the fray. Absol diving on in. Green Illusion dives it. Double KO streak for that. For the Scyther in. Ignorance is going to take this Rayquaza and make their way towards these tier 2 goals, Chef.
An amazing usage of resources, saving everything that they had for countering certain specific things. Like that Absol Unite was the big opportunity to come back for Fallen Crows, but the fact that, like you said, they managed to save that Scyther Unite and a few other tools just to be able to counter it and make sure that that was not the tool that wiped their entire team from a level 14 Absol, which is going to be very, very scary, meant that Ignorance was just ready for what was going to happen, and they used that perfectly. They engaged perfectly. They used the pressure that they made by getting that KO on the Blastoise early to get a second KO on the Blastoise. Every single part of that last fight, the macro decisions from Ignorance were amazing, and once again, Jupiter doing an amazing job on this Gyarados. I'd have to expect we're going to see some pretty ridiculous damage numbers as well. I don't think there's any time or any chance for Fallen Crows to make it back from this.
Yeah, Jupiter just trying to pad some stats, try to beat that 129k from previous game. Oh, it matters too much. Yeah, like you said, 879, 238, 10 seconds left. Ignorance, though, they are going to take this match, and they're going to earn a spot in the May final event, the main event here on Unite Battle Hub.
And very well earned. I mean, this was a tough set. It was a close set, but they just felt like they were in control. They were drafting their own style. I mean, both these teams really drafting their own style, but they were able to, even with I would say, maybe the most counters that they've received as far as the pressure that was being attempted up in that top path, they managed to play a very safe style. They knew exactly what was going to happen. They knew that they weren't going to be quite as fast, but they still managed to pop off and get all of their game plans online. So congratulations to Ignorance. Like I said, I always love watching them, and I am very excited that they will be at the finals. But let's see how much damage they did. Are we going to see another 130k, or maybe it's Protein Chick's time to pop off? It is actually with the 100k, actually 103k from Wei Wanho, aka I think Sadbrick here as well.
Yeah, big damage numbers. Obviously, a little bit of farming there at the end. Try to get those numbers up, baby. Yeah, 94k by Jupiter on that Gyarados. But that's Sylveon. That was so oppressive. You saw many of those fights where they latched on with that draining kiss and able to kind of close out some KOs as some Pokemon were running away. Yeah, look at some of the highlights from this match here. I think this is a big moment here. Scyther stopping that level 6 Absol in the jungle. And really, it seemed like Protein Shake was able to kind of scale from that moment.
Yeah, we've seen now. I mean, Scyther popped off 2 games. Metagross popped off some games. It's really just about which member of Ignorance is going to pop off in the particular time, the particular game. And in fact, we've got Curly here as well. And Curly, I'm curious, how did you feel about our grand final set?
Oh my goodness, what a grand finals indeed. Just absolutely incredible plays there. I mean, look at that massive Hydro Typhoon that came out of the Blastoise there. We checked out those damage numbers, so definitely like high damage games. Was really surprised to not see the Metagross in this third game here, because I feel like it was working out so well for the teams that did play it today. Definitely like those buffs. There's some pretty good buffs here, but man, the team fights in this set just went absolutely so hard. Just incredible plays from both of these teams, but of course only one team can win at the end of the day. So GG's to Ignorance for, being able to show up for the main event.
Yeah, and just a reminder, of course, for any other teams or any of these teams that played in today, it's not like it's just one qualifier. I mean, the entire format of the entire event is going to be one big finals at the end of the month. We changed to it last month, but now hopefully everybody fully understands exactly how it works. It's a lot of prizes available for these players, and of course, Ignorance, the first ones to qualify, but everybody still has a chance, whether EU or NA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, excited to see what this brings towards the end of the month. Obviously, $500 prize pool at the end of the month. So here we go, graphic on there. So you know where to sign up. Unite Hub, Battle Hub, Elite Tour 500 prize pool. We have the next event going to be on this Thursday. EU qualifier on the 16th, 6 p.m. BST, 7 p.m. CEST. So be there, be square for this next one.
And if you did miss the first NA qualifier, be sure to tune in on the 21st of May. Get your team signed up so that way you get an opportunity to show up to the main event, get a chance at duking it out for that $500 prize pool. You do not want to miss out. So just make sure you keep an eye out on the socials. We are on Twitter, Unite Battle Hub, so just keep an eye out for those signups. And of course, all of the lovely casters that are a part of the Unite Battle Hub and the production, the mods, we usually all retweet it and show some love, try to get those events known. So please make sure that you guys spread the word and share that information and get your team signed up.
Yeah, and I was a little bit too excited to talk about it, but of course it's also a tournament for OCE. I don't know if it's officially been announced yet, but I mean, it's basically every single month over the past, I think it's been almost like 4 months now. OCE has really turned up really strongly, so I'm always excited for that, and that one's going to be a little bit outside of the Elite Tour. So for any of you teams out there who I guess they could have woken up by now if you're in the OCE region, if you're watching in the morning, getting some coffee and watching some Battle Hub, then be sure to be ready for that one. one. I don't remember the exact date. I tried to look it up. I wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's gonna call it for us for today. Kyle, anything you want to say before we go ahead and wrap up here?
No, just thanks for having me. Excited to be part of this amazing crew. Thank you, everybody that joined in. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes to put on these shows. All the mods, all the observers, the producers. So big shout outs to all of the staff here at Unite Battle Hub for putting on a great show for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope you had a great time. Thank you so much for joining us, Kyle. And of course, we are definitely looking forward to having you around here more often. Chef, anything you want to leave us with for tonight?
No, this is just the start of the season. I mean, I know, again, a lot of teams were like not used to the shift. Of course, Battle Hub's been doing the same, tournaments, essentially the same formats for almost 2 years now, I think it's been. So I'm glad to see that now a lot of these strong NA teams have kind of realized how this is going, and I hope to see more of them in the future, because this is going to turn out to be, I mean, first of all, a great reason to continue to play Pokemon Unite competitively, even if maybe you didn't get a chance to qualify for Worlds. Also a great opportunity to try and practice for the final stretch at NAIC, or if you're qualified at NAIC, then that of course as well. So just a lot to play for, a lot to still keep doing at in Pokemon Unite, which is just a great thing to have when you're this late in the season.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for your time. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Shout out to our production and our mods for helping to run the show. We really appreciate everybody's support. Again, keep an eye out on those socials for when we go live again over here on Unite Battle Hub. Be sure to drop a follow, and we will catch you guys next time.